Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier in studio today. Hope everyone out there is having a great start to their Tuesday. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Dr. Crane, appreciate you coming in. How's it going?
Good morning. Hey, doing great.
You have a good holiday?
It was pretty good. Not too shabby. Saw some family and hung around the house for the most part.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And
yourself?
Great. Got to go back home. I reported on the 40X experience, by the way, yesterday. It was a 3-hour car crash. That's the way I'm going to describe it. But it was fine. But yeah, great holiday. Good to see some family and good to be back up here in Nashville. We got the new year coming up in a couple of days. It'll be great. I'll be in Fayetteville, Arkansas for that one as Vandy starts off their SEC schedule. So going to be great.
Woo pig suey.
We're going to be hog calling at midnight.
I would do a hog call. Not going to do it on the air. That'd just be bad for radio.
Lots to get into today. We're going to talk Titans head coaching search as the NFL season wraps up this weekend. Titans will be going fast and furious to find out who is going to be their next head coach, pretty much starting in 6 days. We'll also get into the college football playoff quarterfinals, which get going tomorrow night, Miami and Ohio State on New Year's Eve. But did want to talk about the Preds last night. On this 7-game road trip, they got the win in Minnesota last week, fell against St. Louis over the weekend, and yesterday, a comeback win in the Ice Age game, beating the Mammoth 4-3. Steven Stamkos, back-to-back goals to get the win. So the Preds keep on rolling, and Stamkos has been a huge part of it.
Yeah, 3-point night for him last night, 2 goals and an assist. It just makes you feel like this team's starting to get their right mojo together, if that makes sense. Like that, I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, last Tuesday, this team needs to win 4 out of the 6 on the away trip. And I excluded the Minnesota game. Funny enough,
yeah, it was funny. We were saying, we were like, there's some winnable games on here. Minnesota's going to be tough. And then they go out and win it that night.
Yeah, so including the Minnesota win now, they have to win at least 5 of 7. And they can only drop one more game on this away trip, in my opinion, to keep their name in the conversation for that wild card spot. The one game you're kind of looking at on that away trip is the last one, and that's Edmonton. If you can drop that game to Edmonton and somehow win 3 in a row with Vegas, Seattle, and Calgary, those are teams that you should be able to beat. It's just a matter of the stamina and fatigue that's starting to set in on this away trip as well.
Yeah, right now, Preds sitting at 38 points, 17, and 4. They are 3 points back of a playoff spot as it stands right now. But do have opportunities, like you said, Vegas, Seattle, Calgary the next couple of days. It'll be an afternoon start against Vegas tomorrow in the middle game of this 7-game road trip. So looking forward to that. We'll talk more Preds tomorrow with Corey Curtis. Monday Night Football last night. What a game, Rams and Falcons. And I'm a little glad the Falcons were able to pull it out, although that Puka Nacua near catch at the end of the game would have been ridiculous if he was able to hold on to it. But the Falcons winning sets up this weird scenario in the NFC South where it looked like that game on Saturday was going to be for the division. Panthers, Bucks, winner take all, you're the division champion. But because the Falcons won, now there's this scenario where there could be a 3-way tie if the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday, which would make the Panthers make the playoffs no matter what happens in that game against the Bucks on Saturday. So it's a very interesting situation in the NFC South where it looked like it was going to be winning in. Now the Bucks, even if they beat the Panthers on Saturday, have to do some scoreboard watching on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm the only person you can kind of blame for all this would be Baker Mayfield. I mean, the last 2 games, he had the chance to tie the game against Carolina, and funny enough, throws an interception. It was in the vicinity of Mike Evans in that game. This past Sunday, he threw like 2 or 3 picks in the Miami game, and you just think, Baker, what are you doing, man? You have all these wide receivers. Sure enough, Mike Evans wasn't fully healthy in the fourth quarter, but you go and get a little shot play with Chris Godwin, and that gets you 59 yards down the field. Then you have the chance to score. Don't force a pass, and I think that's the issue is that Miami was playing some really good coverage defense, and they just fooled him, and he threw it into the interception, that is.
Baker Mayfield was an MVP candidate through the first 6-7 weeks of the season, and it's fallen apart. Not just for him, but for the full Bucs team. And you wonder if they're going to be able to salvage it and get into the playoffs. And we're about to get into the Titans head coaching search, and a big part of it is how many other jobs will open up. The Buccaneers one is one that's a little more interesting than you thought it ever would be. This team blows it and misses the playoffs. You wonder if maybe they look to make a change with Todd Bowles.
Yeah, and you wonder if Mike Evans is going to return for another year. I mean, the guy is coming off a hamstring injury. I believe he's an unrestricted free agent after this season. Could he hang up the cleats? Could he return for a 2-year deal and it's technically a 1-year deal? Something along those lines.
Right.
That's a big question for Tampa Bay. But as for the coaching carousel, I don't think, if that is the case, if Tampa Bay does move on from Todd Bowles, I don't think he gets another head coaching job.
I would say not right off the bat, maybe down the road, but he's already had a couple of chances with the Jets and now the Bucks. So we'll see what sorts out there. But that's a job that didn't look like it had any chance to be open about a month ago. And now maybe, depending on the results this weekend, could end up adding another coaching opening to the carousel. We got 3 games for division titles this weekend across the NFL. Well, I guess not anymore with the NFC South, but a pseudo game for a division title. But we got 2 others. We got Ravens and Steelers. That one's going to be on Sunday Night Football. And then in the, why am I blanking? The 49ers and the Seahawks. Yep. That's not only for the division, but for the 1 seed in the NFC. So all of the playoff spots except for those 2 division titles are already locked up. We know who 6 of the 7 playoff teams are going to be, and the division titles in those 4 seeds are going to be figured out. But there's a whole lot of movement that could happen up and down the board.
Yeah, it's crazy. You look at the San Francisco 49ers with all the injuries they've had on defense, and yet they still have snuck their way into the conversation of the number 1 overall seed on the NFC side. It blows my mind. You got to give kudos to Kyle Shanahan. And, I mean, even Robert Saleh. That defense is looking pretty stout.
Well, I mean, Caleb Williams made some plays against them, but they came up with the stop when they needed to at the very end to get that win. Was it 42-38 was the final? Yes. That was unbelievable game on Sunday Night Football. And the NFL playoff picture right now, it is so wide open. I saw yesterday the AFC, somebody put out all of the seeds that teams could be. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who the Titans play on Sunday, depending on the result of their game and all the other ones in the AFC, could be the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, or the 5, 6, or 7. They could be anywhere up and down the board except for the 4 seed, which will be the winner of the AFC North. It's crazy. Yes, we already know who the playoff teams are. There's nobody outside of those lower level division winners that are going to win or go home. But there's so much movement that could happen in terms of seeding just based off this final week of the season.
Yeah, and another factor to this is, and it was mentioned last night on the Monday Night Football broadcast, but they brought up the 2 number 1 seeds of last season, not in the playoffs, Kansas City and Detroit. And it makes you wonder, will Baltimore get in over Pittsburgh if they win Sunday? And that's another factor, because if they don't get in, no Lamar Jackson, it just opens up a prime opportunity for a guy like Josh Allen to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Josh Allen and the Bills, I would guess maybe they rest their starters this week. All they're playing for is seeding, whether you're the 5, the 6, the 7 in the wild card, and they might be able to beat the Jets with their backups. I wouldn't mind if you sit Josh Allen, give him a chance to get rested and ready, because you're right. The way the AFC is set up this year, a lot of young quarterbacks, a lot of inexperience, and Josh Allen, who's been there and been on the doorstep, but just couldn't get past big bad Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. He's finally got a chance where Mahomes is sitting at home on his couch to go and try and make a run to a Super Bowl. So the playoffs are going to be a whole lot of fun in the NFL this season. And this week, again, it's not like there's a whole lot of intrigue about who's going to be in, but you could see the standings shuffle all over the place because not a lot of division titles have been locked up. We talked about the 3 that are up for grabs in games being played against each other, but the Texans can still win the AFC South if the Titans were able to pull off the upset. I know there are Titans fans who probably wouldn't want that to happen, but it's going to be a very interesting Week 18 as we come down the stretch in the NFL season. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, Mike Evans is the one old aging wide receiver I'd not hesitate to pick up in two-tone blue. Such a dog. Titans have tried that before, and I really do like Mike Evans, and I think he is one of those guys who is still going to produce even as he ages. We've seen it over the past few years. He has been injured this season, but the Titans, you can't keep being the retirement home for 30-plus wide receivers.
He's a volume guy. Like that's the issue, is that as a wide receiver, he's a volume guy. Majority of your passes are going to him. And again, I don't think a guy that that age, up in its mid-30s, early 30s, that is, having, I wouldn't say weak hamstrings, but definitely injury-prone hamstrings, not coming into the cold weather.
Yeah,
You stay in South Beach.
I think the Titans need to go younger at wide receiver. They've tried to go older for about the last 10 years, and it hasn't worked out. So I think younger is better. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We are off and running on this Tuesday. Coming up next, we're going to ask the question, with 6 days remaining until the NFL regular season wraps up and the Titans start putting in slips for head coaching candidates. If you could only interview 3 guys for the Titans head coaching job, who would they be? We will give our answers. We want to hear from you. Again, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next man up, 1025 The Game. The number 14 Vanderbilt Commodores will take on number 23 Iowa tomorrow in the ReliQuest Bowl. Pregame begins at 9:30 a.m. on 94.9 The Fan, and kickoff is set for 11 down there in Tampa. outdoors looking for their 11th win of the season, and Diego Pavia playing his final game in black and gold. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. We will talk a little bit of the bowl games going on between Vanderbilt and Iowa tomorrow and Tennessee and Illinois just down the road in the Music City Bowl later on this afternoon. But let's talk some Titans here. I teased it before the break. The Titans, under a week away from getting all in on finding a new head coach. Brian Callahan fired back after week 6. Mike McCoy's been the interim coach, but the Titans are gearing up for this search, going to be sending out interview slips. And I would guess they're going to interview more than 3 guys. From what we've heard, the reports, and we can talk about the CBS one that came out this weekend, they're going to cast a wide net. Coordinators, maybe some college coaches, former head coaches. What are the Titans going to do when they look for this new head coach is going to be the biggest question around the Titans fan base over probably a week and a half, 2 weeks until they make their decision. But I want to ask the question, if you could only interview 3 candidates, who would they be? We've heard a lot of different names. 3 candidates. Who are you looking at, Nick Frazier?
If one of those opens up in Matt LaFleur with Green Bay, if things kind of hit the fan,
right?
I mean, he's even been asked about that in press conferences. If that name opens up, that's somebody that would be in the conversation. But as for guys that are available now,
yeah,
I would go with probably Robert Saleh as a name that's out there. I mean, Arthur Smith's been a name out there as well. The defensive coordinator with Minnesota,
Brian
Flores. Thank you. I know there's the controversy of him not getting another head coach job, whatever,
the lawsuit.
But I would look at that. I really would.
I like those 3 names, and you're going defense with Flores and Saleh, Arthur Smith, the familiarity with the Titans. I like that. You mentioned Matt LaFleur. There are the special names that aren't available now, but could come available that I think would immediately go to the top of the Titans board. LaFleur would be one of them. I think Tomlin and Harbaugh. That game on Sunday, I think I wouldn't put it even above 50%, but there is a chance that the loser of that game on Sunday does not coach for that team moving forward. Whether that's Harbaugh gets fired, they look at it and say, man, your message is getting stale. We've got so much talent on this roster, and you couldn't even get us to the playoffs. I would get that. Mike Tomlin, maybe it's a decision by him that, hey, I'm ready for a change of scenery. Maybe the Steelers are tired of going 9-8 every single time. I could see those names popping into the fold. But for guys who are available now, I like Robert Saleh. I had him on my list too. I think Saleh, when you look at the bounce backs, the guys who have had their opportunity as a head coach and quote unquote failed, they got fired. I think Saleh, you can at least see the context most clearly around why he failed there. Ownership's not great with the Jets. Woody Johnson has clearly not had a good grasp on how to run that organization. They haven't been to the playoffs in 15 years.
Right.
You look at the Aaron Rodgers saga of Robert Saleh didn't really get an opportunity to work with a quarterback who he could mold, right?
Forced marriage.
It was an arranged marriage. I think that's a perfect way to put it. And when Aaron Rodgers goes down with an Achilles injury in week 1, it's like, well, that year was already kind of wasted. And then he comes back. He's not the same guy, as most guys are coming off an Achilles. They're usually not the exact same guy coming back. And they went all in with Devontae Adams and some of the other moves that they made, and it didn't work out. I can understand why Robert Saleh maybe deserves another chance, especially with what we've seen from the defense. You mentioned it in the last segment about the ability to work through these injuries to some of the best players in football. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, both gone. 49ers are playing at home for a 1 seed on Saturday. So I think that is definitely one of the names I would look into. The other 2 that I have, Mike McCarthy. That's the guy that I've kind of been banging the drum for the entire time. I would understand if they didn't want to hire Mike McCarthy. I think it's a safe move, and maybe you do want to go for a higher ceiling type of guy. I am leaning floor. I've said that the entire time. I think you want to bring in a guy who is going to set the culture, and you don't have to worry about being competent, right? Like Brian Callahan The biggest issue was he didn't know what he was doing, and he brought in inexperience with him, and everybody was learning on the job. Mike McCarthy, you don't have to worry about that. He is not learning on the job. He's done it for 15 years. Right. He's won a whole lot of games. He's won a Super Bowl. Is Mike McCarthy going to win another Super Bowl for you? I don't know. But right now, the Titans need to worry about finding somebody who can develop the young quarterback and bring this team out of the cellar. Get this team back into playoff contention. And Mike McCarthy, I don't think is long for being a coach anyway, right? Like, I don't think that he's going to be a head coach 10 years down the road, but he can be a guy who can get the wheels back on the track and get you going. And he's proven he can develop a young gunslinger quarterback. Guess when he showed up to Green Bay?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers' second year.
Yeah.
Not saying that that means that's exactly what's going to happen with Cam Ward, but I think that Mike McCarthy has proven that he can be a positive force in a situation like this and can hopefully build this thing back up. So I like Mike McCarthy. My third name is Jeff Hafley of the Green Bay Packers. His name has been floated out there a couple of times, and I don't know what it is. I just have a good feeling about him. He was at Boston College. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator at Ohio State.
Right.
So he has head coaching experience at BC. He left that because he didn't want to do the NIL era of college football. He did not want to be a head coach in college football with the way that world is changing. So he went to the NFL and immediately turned around that Green Bay defense last year. Green Bay had a horrible defense in 2023, and they were turning the ball over left and right in 2024. So you like his defensive ability as a coach, and he's already been a head coach. I don't know much about his leadership skills, but I have a good feeling about Jeff Hafley. If I had to interview three, those would be my three: McCarthy, Saleh, Hafley.
Not bad. I like that list. My only question for you when it comes to Hafley, does it give you more reassurance that knowing his past with coaching defensively has been with defensive backs, and to know that the Titans secondary has been abysmal this year?
Yeah. I mean, it's fair.
Because right now, looking at it for me, it's a little difficult to navigate because Denard Wilson has had some history with defensive backs in Baltimore, along with linebackers. It makes me wonder if there's going to be some friction there if that is the case of a hiring of Matt Hafley.
Yeah,
Jeff Hafley.
Yeah, I mean, Denard Wilson. That is going to be a question when the new head coach is hired: is do they want to take a look at Denard Wilson as your defensive coordinator, or do you decide to go elsewhere? And I think if it's a defensive coach, you're probably looking elsewhere, right? Like Denard Wilson having been a DC, I don't think he wants to go back to being, the second guy,
right,
for a defensive head coach. But I do like what Denard's done, considering the hand he's been dealt. It has not been great.
Yeah, that's why I like, we brought up Robert Saleh, both of us, and that's why I like that matchup with those two coaches, is because I feel like Robert Saleh would be a true cultured leader, and then you have Denard Wilson as your right-hand man.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I look at that marriage. Whereas you look at some other marriages in the coaching realm, Mike McCarthy would probably work with Denard Wilson because they're both opposite sides of the ball.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jeff Hafley. I don't know, that's just where it kind of stops for me.
Yeah, I think defense would be a fun. I said last week that I'm leaning more towards that defensive head coach because you get somebody who can be Cam's guy. Right? Like Mike McCarthy, I think would work because he would be more of the CEO. Maybe he calls plays, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But I think he would be more of the CEO type, and he would hire a guy who would be Cam's guy at offensive coordinator. But with a defensive head coach, you just hire somebody who's going to run the offense. And I do like that idea, even if it does come with the risk of them having success and getting a job somewhere else.
Yeah, the one quality that I like right now about the Titans is the offense obviously is moving the ball. Cam Ward's obviously one of those guys that is the first ever rookie franchise quarterback to throw over 3,000 yards. And he's doing it with, I wouldn't say practice squad material players, but yet low-end quality players. I think you could say Ellick and Chimdike are both on the rise when it comes to stuff like that. But if you were to pair that with a solid DC or a solid coach in Robert Saleh, that's great. My big thing is I wonder if the Titans look at Bo Hardigree as a guy you can bring back to develop with Cam.
Yeah.
Because, like, if that's the case, you don't have to bring in another OC. You can just solely have a marriage of Cam and Bo Hardegree that direction.
Yeah, if you believe that Bo Hardegree has been a big part of Cam's development throughout the year, then maybe I could see it. But if they bring somebody from the outside, which I think they're going to,
Right.
I don't think they're. We talked about it yesterday. I don't think Mike McCoy is getting an interview. But when you bring somebody from the outside, usually they're going to want to bring in their own guys and not want to leave carryovers from the last staff. But we will see. The Titans have a long way to go in terms of finding their new head coach. Parker, do you have any names that come to mind if you could only interview 3 candidates for the Titans head coaching job?
Yeah, Mike McCarthy would be one. I really like Joe Brady. I would give Joe Brady an interview. Now, if Kevin Stefanski's fired from the Browns, this changes all of this. But those are my 2 so far. And then last one, a dark horse, Chris Shula, defensive coordinator of the Rams.
Okay. Yeah, Shula's been named in a couple of these reports. Stefanski's an interesting one because there is a chance he could come free. The Browns are 4-12. The dynamic with him and Shedeur Sanders has not exactly been amicable throughout the season. So if Stefanski came free, do you bet on Stefanski to get back to the coach that he was when he won head coach of the year and he went to the playoffs with Baker Mayfield? Or do you get a little hesitant about what's happened lately in Cleveland and whether he can get back to where he was?
Gotta take what's the now, and that's the lack of success. You can't go back and look 3-4 years before that, because then that just goes to show you that's just hiring coach malpractice.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. John on X says everything you just said about why Robert Saleh failed with the Jets is exactly what the Titans have now. I mean, that is a good point of, yeah, he's going to get not great ownership and an arranged marriage with a quarterback with Cam Ward. I think it would be more of, does Robert Saleh want to work with Cam Ward? He saw him up close and personal. He defended against him, studied him for a week. If Robert Saleh believes in Cam Ward, I think that's different than taking the job and being told, we're going to go get Aaron Rodgers. He's your guy. Robert Saleh has a decision in this too. And if he doesn't believe in Cam Ward and doesn't like the ownership structure, then he probably wouldn't come here.
And also, you mentioned, Robert Saleh on the defensive side of the ball. What about Jeffrey Simmons? The conversation's been, well, Cam Ward, could he have conversations with some of these incoming head coaches? Why can't Jeffrey Simmons have that say as well? Because he said, you know what? I'm signing a deal here with this team. I think I belong with this franchise throughout my whole entire career. Can I have a little say in this? Why has that not been brought up yet? You know what I mean?
No, that's a very good point. And I think Jeffrey Simmons, just like, Cam Ward, the controversy about Cam Ward saying he wants to speak to the coaches, I think Jeffrey Simmons is going to speak to some of these candidates too. Like, those are your 2 pillars that you have on this team right now that they want to build around. They should at least be able to meet these guys. And it's a 2-way street. You want Cam and Jeff to have familiarity with the guys you're interviewing, and you want these guys to understand what they're getting when they come into this building in terms of the leadership on both sides of the ball.
And here's what scares me about Saleh. Myles Garrett has more sacks than the entire 49ers defense combined. The defense hasn't been necessarily great this year. The offense has been fantastic.
Yeah. And Saleh, I think, is more a bet on his leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done his best with the injuries that have been there, but that is a good point from Parker. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get to some of your thoughts on the coaching search coming up next, and we will talk about the article that came out this weekend. Jonathan Jones from CBS listed another pool of candidates that the Titans may be looking to interview. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game is your home for the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl. Today, the pregame show will start at 3. Kickoff is at 4:30. Music City Bowl coverage is presented by Pickers Vodka and Beyond the Edge Sports Bar. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game, looking at the Titans coaching search. We gave our 3 candidates that we would interview. I went with Jeff Hafley, Robert Saleh, and Mike McCarthy. Nick Frazier, remind us who you had. Robert Saleh, Brian Flores, and Arthur Smith.
Thank you.
So I'm looking around. There are a lot of names, and Jonathan Jones of CBS put out a list of more candidates in an article on Sunday. And these were the names he put out there, a lot of the familiar ones. Matt Nagy, Mike McCarthy, Jeff Hafley, Chris Shula, Jesse Minter. And that's a very similar group to the one that Diana Rossini put out 2 weeks ago. The only name that was added was Mike McCarthy. The other ones were both in both lists. So that shows you that those ones probably, when there's smoke, there's fire, that Nagy, Hafley, Shula, Minter, probably all going to get interviews. Matt Nagy, another article came out today from The Athletic talking about, his journey since being the coach, the head coach of the Bears, and what he's done since, and his process with Andy Reid. And there was a snippet in there that has been pulled out on Twitter saying that when Mike Borgonzi was interviewing for the Titans job, that him and Matt Nagy worked together on preparing. And does that mean that he is the surefire slam dunk head coach? No, but it is. The questions have been, well, if you're looking at McCarthy and Nagy, we don't know what their relationships were like with Brinker and Borgonzi, respectively. Brinker and McCarthy worked together in Green Bay. Nagy and Borgonzi worked together in Kansas City. And you don't know what those relationships were like, but seeing that snippet there makes you think, all right, Borgonzi and Nagy probably pretty close, and you wonder if that's going to have an impact on the hiring process.
Yeah, it just seems like they worked in lockstep, whereas, again, like you mentioned, it seems like there's an uncertainty with McCarthy and Brinker. But then it comes to the front office aspect between Brinker and Borgonzi of, well, Brinker has said that Borgonzi has final say on the roster. Does that also include the head coach? Because that's the issue now, is Brinker going to have final say on this head coach, or is it the GM that has the final say? Because look, if it's me, if Borgonzi is the one picking the coach, it helps out tremendously with the roster construction. If you got Brinker saying, no, this guy's the guy to go with, that changes your trajectory of how you approach the draft. I'm sorry. And that just throws everything out the window, in my opinion.
Yeah, you do have to find somebody who's going to fit the structure here. And in that article from Jonathan Jones, he had a snippet that read about Amy Adams Strunk and said that she has not developed the best reputation in hiring circles. She fired a winning general manager in John Robinson, a winning head coach in Mike Vrabel, and in 2 years or less fired Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan. Basically what we've been saying for years is that Amy Adams Strunk has had a quick trigger when it comes. If you make some mistakes, you're going to be gone, and she's going to go find the next one. That's not something that I'm sure is promising for coaching candidates. And they also mentioned, Jonathan Jones in this article mentions that the unique front office structure could end up being a factor as well, because on the surface, it's not really clear what everybody's role is. What does Chad Brinker do? Is it like he said a couple of years ago where he cuts the grass and, books the hotels for the travel? Or is he the one making the decisions on these big personnel decisions? Is Mike Borgonzi the one picking the 53? What will the head coach do? I mean, if you bring in a guy like Mike McCarthy, who's done this for a long time, I'm sure he's going to want say in who is going to be on his team. So that's another factor that the Titans, I think, are going to have these candidates selling themselves just as much as the Titans have to sell themselves back to these candidates.
Yeah, and just putting the two names out there, McCarthy and Nagy, if I had to choose between which coach can deal with this front office, it would be Mike McCarthy. I mean, he's been in Dallas previously. That's a front office that's obviously run by Jerry Jones and his family in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder that is very similar to the Titan structure.
I guess that's true. Saying? Yeah, Mike McCarthy has experiences with both ends of the owner spectrum. The Packers don't have an owner, so It's like you've got the president of football operations who's running the show, but they're owned by the fans. And then you've got the most overreaching owner of all time in Jerry Jones, who is the GM and picks all the players. So I guess Mike McCarthy, no stranger to either end of the owner spectrum. Of course, Amy probably closer to the Jerry Jones side.
Yeah, and I think that helps out with narrowing down your candidates because, again, if Matt Nagy is one of those coaches that you like, you got to see if he can gel well with that front office. And that if it's Borgonzi and Nagy that gel well together, you got to now sell that to the front office. Those two have together in lockstep have to sell that to Brinker and Amy Adams-Strunk.
Well, and it's funny because we named off the 3 candidates we wanted to interview, and none of us said Matt Nagy. But if you had to guess who is going to be the Titans head coach right now, would anybody say anything other than Matt Nagy? Because I don't know if I would. I think Matt Nagy is the guy that I expect to be the Titans head coach, and it's not a horrible hire. I wouldn't be devastated if Matt Nagy is the head coach of the Titans. I think there are positives to bringing him in and betting on the upside of he's done this before. He did have success at times in Chicago. What can he do if you give him the right pieces and if Cam Ward develops into a franchise quarterback? But that's a lot of ifs, and I would prefer to go with somebody else. But if I had to guess, I think it's going to be Nagy.
Yeah, I mean, look, you go back and see that Chicago run with Nagy, it just seemed like the stars didn't line up for him. Whereas if you look at a guy like Mike McCarthy, who I've already previously mentioned about his previous past with Dallas and how he deals with that front office, on paper, and you've mentioned this multiple times in the past, people would sign up for a 12-5 season for the Titans. They would do that on a continuous basis. Yeah, on a continuous basis. So if you can find that and find some form of stability at the quarterback position with Cam Ward, I'd sign up for that route. So maybe to some people, Matt Nagy is the front runner for the job. I'm leaning more towards the Mike McCarthy and just saying, from these two candidates, that's who I'd go with, is the McCarthy route.
Yeah, you look at the Titans right now, and it's very similar to where this team was in 2015. Mm-hmm. You've got a quarterback coming out of his first year. A lot of good, some bad. I think there was more good from Marcus in year one, but he got injured a decent amount. He missed 4 games. With Cam, struggled early on, starting to see the fruits come in the last couple of weeks of the season. And you're looking for a new head coach. They went with Mike Mularkey. They went with the interim guy. And Mike Mularkey did a good job of putting this team back into relevance. But was he ever going to get you where you needed to go? Probably not. You get to the point where the expectations rise, and you've got to find a guy who can take you deep into the playoffs. And that's why we're talking about, is Matt LaFleur going to be available? John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, because those guys have proven, obviously throughout their careers, 2 of the 3 have proven that they can go win a Super Bowl, of course. Right. But lately it's been, can this guy get you from just being a consistent borderline playoff team to a Super Bowl winner? And the expectations are up here for those teams, the Ravens, the Packers, the Steelers, and they're not meeting them. The Titans, the expectations right now are way down here. You've got to at least get over those before you start to look and say, hey, can this guy win us a Super Bowl? Eventually, that's the goal for everybody. But right now, the Titans just need somebody who is going to put the fires out in this organization and get this team back to stability. And you hope that they can elevate you to a Super Bowl contender. At some point, the expectations rise and you might have to go find somebody else.
Yeah, Titans need to find some rebar in their construction process. And I'm not talking about their stadium. I'm talking about that head coaching position. I'm going to make a look at the Alabama spectrum of it all. You had Nick Saban, then you had your Kalen DeBoer. You had the guy that followed Nick Saban. That's kind of where the Titans are right now. Who's the one following Mike Vrabel? You could say it was Brian Callahan, and they've already turned the page into saying, all right, we got the next guy that can bring us stability.
Right.
I'm not there quite yet. I think I look at the Brian Callahan situation as like just blinking my eyes and continuing because they're still looking for that Kalen DeBoer stability guy.
I mean, Callahan and Wisenhunt, very different people, but the tenure is almost identical in terms of what actually happened. So the Titans need to go find who is going to dig them out of this hole where you've won, likely going to go 6-28 in 2 years. Between Mike Vrabel and whoever your next guy is. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will get to some of your texts on the Titans head coaching search coming up next. The Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for college football bowl games presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Twin Peaks. Today on Sports Talk 8:30, starting at 1 p.m., it's Coastal Carolina and Louisiana Tech in the Independence Bowl. And on 102.5 The Game, following the Music City Bowl, will be USC and TSU TCU, I should say, in the Alamo Bowl. For a list of games carried on the Game Nashville Sports Network, visit thegamenashville.com/bowl games. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game.
Can't get away from it. Love it. Love it.
Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Finishing up hour number one, talking about the Titans head coaching search, which is going to heat up in a hurry. Week 18 of the NFL season this weekend, and then Black Monday coming up 6 days away. We'll find out who the Titans are competing against for these head coaching candidates and who the Titans are looking at for these interviews. We asked you to send in some ideas of what you would want in a head coach and who you would want to interview. My favorite text we've gotten on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com is from Nevada Josh. John Gruden, the Hasselbeck brothers, or Robbie Stanley. Those are the three that he wants to interview. I'm all in on Robbie. Head coach Robbie Stanley.
I am too.
I trust Robbie. If he's a Packers fan, I trust him.
Do you think he could still do the show in the mornings and then get over there to St. Thomas
100%
to coach the Titans?
Technology's evolved so much to where he could just do it from St. Thomas.
Right,
he can do it from his office.
We first ever sports talk radio station to have the sitting head coach of a team as a regular host on their show.
Robbie, he does everything, man. Like you could get him to go coach a Pee Wee football team and go coach the Titans on Sunday. He's still
not going to stop his work at the church, though.
No,
he's going to do all three.
He's a jack of all trades.
And the Preds coverage. That must continue as well.
The versatility of that man. And Robbie Stanley does a phenomenal job, just straight up to let everyone know that guy works and works and works.
That'd be funny to get that notification from the Titans of we've completed a head coaching interview with Robbie Stanley from 102.5 The Game. Thomas from Hendersonville. I thought this was an interesting one because we talk about Tomlin and Harbaugh and whether one of them might come loose, whether they decide to go different directions, if they get fired. And I at least believe that with the track records of those two, if they were available, they immediately become your number one candidate. But Thomas from Hendersonville says this: whether Tomlin or Harbaugh part ways with their current team this year, there's no way they're taking another job immediately after being tenured for almost 20 years each. I could understand that. Second, why would we want Mike Tomlin, Mr. 9-8 himself? It's not that hard to find a mediocre coach that can win half of his games every year. I don't know why the Titans haven't been able to do that, but if they looked a little harder, it wouldn't be that difficult. I understand what you're saying because Mike Tomlin, yes, he did win a Super Bowl early on in his career and had the Steelers as one of those teams at the top with the Patriots, with the Colts or the Broncos, wherever Peyton Manning was, that could compete for a Super Bowl every year. But he hasn't done it in the last 15 years, right? That's the last Super Bowl appearance for the Steelers was the Packers one.
Yes. Was that before the Cardinals one,
I think it was after the Cardinals.
After the Cardinals? Okay. Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think it was back-to-back. They beat the Cardinals, lost to the Packers in back-to-back years.
That sounds right.
And so since then, he hasn't gotten back to the Super Bowl. I can understand that. I just think you bring in a proven guy like that, you're immediately going to put yourself back into contention. Like we've been saying, it's like you just want this team to get back to being competitive and in the playoff hunt. And if the expectations get raised, maybe Mike Tomlin isn't here for 10 years. But you can at the very least know that you're going to get somebody in here who is going to turn the ship back in the right direction and maybe raise the ship from the bottom of the ocean where it's been and put you back into AFC playoff the conversation. Let's see. Other texts on the Titans coaching search. Robert says, that's why I think either Mike McCoy or Arthur Smith is going to get the job. I don't think the Titans want to clean house like that, and I think the new coach would want his guys. I think they do want to clean house.
Yeah,
I do. I think Amy would not have fired Brian Callahan if she didn't want wide sweeping changes in that locker room. Yeah, she's not cleaning house with Borgonzi and Brinker, which, you know, I've seen people say that's what they want, but I don't think that they want to just go with the same old that, yeah, McCoy has been better than Callahan, but you've still only won 2 games under McCoy. I don't think that's going to be an option.
Or it's just Amy Adams listening to too many people. There are too many cooks in the kitchen. She's getting opinions from every different direction. Maybe that's another outlet, the way she's taking this, unfortunately. But I want to get back to Mike Tomlin real fast. You mentioned, the 9-8 of the world. I think the assumption around, I guess perception around Tomlin is that he just needs that it quarterback. He always puts together a really good defense. Just get that it quarterback. And I think that's the thing with Cam Ward is that he looks like the future for the Titans. It's just, can he be that coach to get him there?
Right.
And I'm not saying he'd be the next head coach, but if that is the case, that's where the assumption and narrative would be around Tomlin.
Well, and you bring in Tomlin, would Arthur Smith come over as the OC? I think that's very possible. I think Arthur Smith's name it was in the head coaching talks for a little bit there. I don't know if he's going to get interviews. I think if he does, it would be with the Titans just because of the familiarity.
Yeah. And I'm hesitant on Arthur Smith because of the lack of success he had in Atlanta. You got to just remember that. I mean, he had all the young talents around him. It just, they couldn't seem to click on all phases.
Yep. And it's the same conversation with Saleh. It's like, we know you got fired. Things didn't work out. Why didn't they work out? And is that something we believe we can do better with you? And that's what you have to ask if you're going with Smith or with Nagy or with Saleh. And on Nagy, we've gotten a couple of Bears fans texting in. 2181 says, as a Chicagoan, I would pray it's anyone else but Nagy. Let's see.
Amen.
Damian in Nashville says, coming from a Bears fan's perspective, Matt Nagy's 12-5 record in Chicago that year was the benefit of Vic Fangio's top-ranked defense, especially getting turnovers and creating short fields. Off the top of my head, I believe the Bears ranked in the 20s in yards and scoring. So that's good context to have from somebody who followed it. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, Shula, Nagy, McCarthy would be his 3. I don't mind that list. And he says, if LaFleur's fired, no interviews, pay the Rooney Rule fine, hire him before his walking papers ink dries. Yeah, and Robbie Stanley has been an advocate throughout the year of firing Matt LaFleur. I think that would be a fit for the Titans if he wanted to come back here. Again, he's seen the inside of this Titans organization. Is that something he wants to come back to? We don't know.
I mean, his hair shows as much stability as his coaching. It's pretty stiff.
This might be my favorite text that we've ever gotten. Not sure how he'd listen to film, but I need Trey as a position coach at the very minimum. From Peagram's Finest.
Yes.
That is really well done.
That's great.
Trey, there's no more. The film room has removed all the projectors. It's just speakers in there now.
Speakers and headphones. That's it. You know, he called in yesterday, and I think I heard him say he watched the game yesterday.
Yeah. Wow.
So is that game number 2 for him this year?
Yeah, it might be. And game number 2 since the AFC Championship back in 2020. So,
good for him.
You know, that we've doubled the amount this year. 8566 says, if the Titans stick with McCoy, it may be the last straw for me. I said the same thing. I said I may stop being a Titans fan if they keep Mike McCoy. And that's overreaction because Mike McCoy has proven that he is at least competent. And I think he's done a decent job, but it's lazy if you hire Mike McCoy. Maybe give him a courtesy interview for his efforts this year. You know, it's tough being the interim head coach, but there's no way that he should be the head coach of this football team moving forward. 8566 says Kubiak is the most appealing coach in my opinion. And I kind of like that. If you're going to go the offensive coordinator route, Joe Brady was the hot name. I think Clint Kubiak is the guy that I would look into.
Yeah. I mean, my only kickback to that is that, like, I don't want to go for the next big thing. If I'm a Titans fan, I don't want the next big thing. Give me somebody that's already been there, that's been through the fires, that has, you know, set a culture. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Again, a phenomenal name, great candidate, but I just don't want to go that route.
Well, and yeah, I think the Titans would be scared to go back to the up and coming offensive coordinator, the guru route, because it just blew up in their face. I do think experience, leadership going to be more important than scheme and X's and O's and that kind of stuff. Speaking of Trey, he has called in. And let's go to our phone lines and hear what he has to say. Trey, the newest wide receiver coach for the Tennessee Titans. What's going on?
What's up, guys? How y'all doing? Hey, my thing of it is that, you know, I feel like that if you're going to be a good team, mid-range team, you got to have some good wide receivers. And I believe that, you know, Tim DK, he could be a great, you know, slot guy, you know, punt returner, kick returner, you know, he do all that, you know, he's into all that, you know, I like that. But we need a top grade wide receiver. And another thing is that, you know, I got on Cam a little bit last week about not, you know, throwing the ball in there, you know, so the you know, receivers could catch the ball, you know, and people get mad at me for saying that. But the thing of it is that that's what he needs to do. He needs to build that confidence if he sees that window to get the ball in there. You know, don't just be throwing the ball up just for anybody, you know, and I think, you know, that's a plus going in. And then, you know, they're generating points. That's a plus. But that defense is stinky. I don't know what's going on with that defense. It seems like, you know, the people that we got in the second and third tier can't match what they're playing out there on the field. For some reason, they all make millions and millions of dollars. I don't understand why they can't adapt to what they need to do to be able to improve. And how do we get dragged like that in the second half? That's ridiculous. These people are making millions and millions of dollars. And Denard Wilson isn't that good of a coach. I'm just saying that just straight up and down. Y'all he ain't that good of a coach. But, you know, if he improve, I don't know if he'll be on the staff next year or whatever. But, you know, they need to do something with him. But Cam's improving. gradually improving. It's progressing, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate y'all, and I miss y'all too. And y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Have a good day, Trey. Thanks for the call. I didn't know he was going to call in about wide receivers when I said he's the new wide receiver coach, but great ideas there.
It lasted 3 minutes. He's no longer a wide receiver coach after saying he does not want Denard Wilson on his staff.
Well, and the defense, the reason they are, and I quote, stinky, is because they have bad players on the field who are not making millions and millions of dollars. I looked up Darrell Baker, who I believe is the highest paid active cornerback for the Titans right now. He is making $1 million. $1 million, which
darn.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but that is why the defense is stinky, is because they have no players.
And Jalen Armour-Davis went down too. So you got to remember that.
Right. Dustin from Hopkinsville says if Trey was coach, we'd rotate quarterback every 3 games.
It's true. Not wrong there, Dustin. Good text.
615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. More Titans talk coming up later in the show. I went through and looked at Cam Ward's stats and compared them to Caleb Williams and Drake May. We'll do that later on in the show, but we do have college football today, tomorrow, the next day. We've got some big games, including one right downtown. We'll talk Music City Bowl. But first, we're going to get into the college football quarterfinals coming up next. They start tomorrow. Miami, Ohio State, Indiana, Alabama, Oregon, Texas Tech, Georgia, Ole Miss, the final 8 teams for the national championship. We will get into it in hour number 2. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2 on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Great first hour looking at the Titans head coaching search, now into some college football. We will talk Music City Bowl as that is going on later on this afternoon. Again, pregame coverage right here on 102.5 The Game starts at 3, and that's with Chase and Big Joe. So DVD going to be coming up after us today. So look forward to that. A little early DVD from 12 to 3.
Hey, you get to listen and watch to afternoons, but at the midday.
Right. It's funny. I haven't seen a lot of the DVD guys in a while because, we got a 3-hour break between our time slots. So it'll be good to see, I guess Willie's on the road, but it'll be good to see Adam and Derek as they make their way in here. But again, 3 o'clock pregame coverage right here on 102.5 The Game from the Music City Bowl, and the game starts at 4:30. We'll talk that later. Let's talk about the big games going on this week. The college football playoff quarterfinals start tomorrow. What are we expecting from these ones? I think the opening round, we knew there were going to be a couple of games that just weren't going to be all that competitive. We got some good ones. Alabama comes back from down 17-0 to beat Oklahoma. Miami and Texas A&M, they were in a defensive struggle throughout the game. Miami pulls it off. I think we're going to get some really fun games this weekend. And it starts with Miami and Ohio State tomorrow night. Maybe the most talent on the field of any of these games. When you look at NFL-level players, I saw a mock draft yesterday that had 4 or 5 players from these two teams in the top 10. When you look at Arvell Reese, Carnell Tate, Francis Mauioga, if I'm pronouncing that correct, the Miami tackle, and then Caleb Downs, of course, from Ohio State. So a lot of talent on the field tomorrow night. Oh, and Reuben Bain as well. I didn't even mention him. So you've got players up and down the field who are going to be playing on Sundays. I lean Ohio State, but I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, it'll be a good game. It's just a matter of, is Carson Beck going to show up and not, have turnovers that he's had in previous weeks. So that's a game I'm intrigued with. I'm also intrigued with Oregon, Texas Tech. That's another game that intrigues me. I think it's going to be 70 points total. It's just going to be offense.
Well, Texas Tech's defense has been so good. I wonder if that neutralizes Oregon's offense a little bit. But I agree with you. I think that's why I kind of lean Oregon in that game, and we all picked Oregon to go to the national championship.
Yeah.
Just because I think, yes, the Texas Tech defense is really good, but I think the matchup leans Oregon because their offense is so good and their defense is still good enough to slow down that Texas Tech attack.
Yeah, I look at it more of whoever has the ball last is going to win this football game. Again, Texas Tech's defense has really shown up in previous weeks, and especially the Big 12 championship game, that is. There's just something about Oregon when they went up against JMU. It was like a tune-up game for them.
Yeah.
And that's just the notion I felt, because they put their second, third stringers in the third, fourth quarter.
Right.
That's the only
game looked a whole lot closer.
Right. That's the only reason why they put up, 20 plus, 25 plus.
It was 51-34 was the final.
Yeah.
Yes, the game looked a lot closer than it actually was. It was 38-3 at one point. So, yeah, the Oregon, I said this before the playoffs, I think Oregon benefited the most from where they were put. And the 5 seed is always going to be a good spot to be because you're likely playing a group of 5 team.
Right.
This year you were playing the second best group of 5 team that made the playoffs, so even better. And for Oregon, it was just an opportunity to shake the rust off a little bit. You hadn't played since the end of the year because you did not make the Big Ten championship game. So at that point, it had been 3 weeks since your last game.
Yeah.
So you got to shake the rust off a little bit, and now you're raring to go. Although it has been a while since those games were played, right? Like, it's been 10, 12 days between games for these teams. But for the teams that got the buys, it's been even longer.
It kind of sits in your brain and thinking, Dante Moore, a quarterback that's just been phenomenal all year for Oregon, doesn't play the second half for the most part. And you wonder, you add those 10 days along with it, does that play a factor into it? I mean, would you say it does?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was good for the Ducks to have that game because last year we saw they had the time off and Ohio State went and punched them in the mouth and beat them. I think for Oregon, for a young quarterback like that, Dante Moore, who needs reps, I think it was good for them to have that extra game. And he looked good. Now you head into face Texas Tech, who's had one of the best defenses in the country. That game is going to be a lot of fun. Is that the midday game on New Year's Day?
Believe so.
I know the late game is Georgia Ole Miss.
11 a.m.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's the early
Earliest
one,
game, yeah.
and then it's Alabama, Indiana, the midday. I guess
Correct.
yeah, the Rose Bowl is always the
Midday.
at
9 a.m. body clock kickoff for the Ducks.
That's interesting. And
Which
where?
would be if they go to the national championship, they'll have to play in Miami twice.
Okay, so they're in the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
Gotcha. Miami and Ohio State, are they in Dallas?
Yes, Cotton Bowl.
Okay, gotcha. So lots of travel going on there. Oregon playing in Miami twice if they go to the national championship. That's crazy. I mean, I guess it would be a late game, of course, for the national championship. But yeah, 9 a.m. body clock game. That is going to be tough for the Ducks.
If Oregon wins, they might as well just stay out there because they'd play in Atlanta the next week. And then if they win that, they'd be in Miami again. They might as well just stay.
Yeah, and
I'm sure Phil Knight's okay with tossing up some money, right?
And those West Coast schools don't go back to class for a while, I don't think. So I don't think it would be any issue of like, oh, they're missing school. Like they can just stay out there. That's a good point from Parker. Those two games, I think, are the ones I'm looking forward to the most. Oregon, Texas Tech, Miami, Ohio State. I mean, we're going through the talent for Miami, Ohio State, and didn't even mention Jeremiah Smith and Malachi Toney, who they can't come out in the draft this year, but going to be top picks most likely in next year's draft or the year after.
Right.
That one, I'm glad that is the New Year's Eve game because the other ones I don't think would have quite as much juice. Oregon, Texas Tech, maybe, but I think Miami, Ohio State is that one game where the talent's all over the field. But you make a good point. I think this game rests on Carson Beck's shoulders of, can you avoid the catastrophic mistake? You're going to have elite pass rushers coming after you. There are ball hawks in the secondary. Can you avoid throwing 2 or 3 interceptions like we saw in the losses for Miami this year and keep your team in the game? Your defense is good enough that I think they're going to slow down that Ohio State attack. Can the offense avoid giving Ohio State free points with turnovers that leads to short fields?
And it's tough to get a true gauge on Miami, even though they beat, A&M and College Station. Just the wind in that game played a huge factor in evaluating that team. Obviously, defensively, Miami looked great, but offensively, you couldn't really throw the ball because it was all over the place. So you had to stick to the ground game.
Right.
And that, again, I'm a run game fiend. I love the running back room. I love just the ball staying on the ground in between the hashes. But again, it's hard to dictate how you can evaluate a team going into the next round when you have a team in Ohio State who, again, had a fluky loss in the Big Ten championship game, if you ask me.
Right. They missed a couple of short field goals, and the offense just wasn't clicking quite as well as it needed to be. If Indiana and Ohio State met again in the national championship, I would pick Ohio State. And again, doubt Kurt Cignetti at your own risk. But I think Ohio State is the most talented team. The question just becomes, do the teams that get these buys, do they struggle again? We can get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Speaking of, our college football game of the week is number 10 Miami and number 2 Ohio State in the college football playoff. You can catch all of the action on 1025 The Game tomorrow night at 6:30. Coverage is presented by Circus Sportsbook Kentucky and also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. We will take a quick break, talk more college football playoff on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Join us at T-Line at 106 Duluth Avenue in Nashville tomorrow for a Vanderbilt football watch party as they take on Iowa in the ReliaQuest Bowl at 11 a.m. Great food, prizes, and plenty of fun while you cheer on the Commodores. That's tomorrow at T-Line in Nashville, anchored down. Commodores and Hawkeyes down there in Tampa. Vols and Illini going on over at Nissan Stadium later today. We will talk about that game in the 11 o'clock hour. But looking around the college football playoff quarterfinals, which start tomorrow, Miami and Ohio State. We also talked a little bit about Oregon and Texas Tech, and we got a texter, 3457, who had thoughts on our idea to have them stay out on the East Coast. He says the Ducks do not need to stay in Miami and Atlanta for close to a month. That will kill their national championship chances. Grandpa Phil needs to go ahead and just have that chartered plane going back and forth from Eugene or Atlanta to Florida. We don't need any Florida man news in the morning that a Duck was arrested on the Strip in Miami. That is fair.
Does he not understand that traveling back and forth like that is tough on the body?
I mean,
not to mention you're playing football games against elite teams.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. And you look at when are the next games played? It's the 8th and 9th. Is that right? Like a week from this
Yes,
weekend?
the 9th. For them, it'd be the 9th.
So they'd play on the 9th. So it would be 8 days between games. That is a long time, but also it's like, man, do you want to fly that far back? And then if you win that one, you got 10 days. You probably would go back to Eugene after that one. But
yeah. Again, we live in the new normal of college football where the Big Ten involves Oregon and Penn State.
Right.
So they're going to be flying
I
across
guess that's true.
anyways.
They're used to it at this point,
right.
With all the travel to the East Coast this year. But yeah, that's an interesting point. And yeah, maybe you don't want to put the Ducks.
The Jags, when they had 2 games in London back to back, just stayed out there instead of. I know it's not exactly apples to oranges here, but
yeah, because their owner actually owns some of Tottenham.
Yeah,
right, and that's not
out there.
How much longer is the flight? Like Oregon to Miami, that's about as far as you could possibly go.
Yeah, I know from
probably 4 or 5 hours
from Nashville or Florida, one of the two. It's roughly about 6 hours.
Oh wow,
London,
okay,
I think.
Yeah,
because I know from New York to Italy, it's 8 hours.
Okay,
so.
Yeah,
take that for what it's worth.
I guess we'll see if the Ducks win this week against Texas Tech. I mean, that has to happen before any of this matters. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dr. Locke has called in. We'd mentioned Ohio State, and of course, Dr. Locke has to chime in. What's going on?
Oh, absolutely. What's up, fellas?
Not much. How are you?
So, yeah, happy holidays, first and foremost. Hope you guys had a good Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you.
You too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you say Dr. Locke's negative, so I need to start off on a positive note. As far as who wins, I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. We'll play it out. But the Ohio State team that's getting off the plane this year, believe it or not, is a better team than it was last year. I think at quarterback, Sayin is a small notch up from Will Howard. Wide receivers are better than the wide receivers from last year. Another year to Jeremiah Smith. Running backs, I mean, no, we're not as good at running back. But defense, we are statistically dominant in every category.
Yep.
The defense that we're putting on the field is unlike anything that any of those teams have seen. So it should go pretty easy for us. But let's delve in. You guys had a theory all season long about SEC's middle. Bigger, better, deeper, we're stronger. Look at these teams like Iowa and Illinois. And here we are, right, with Vanderbilt and Tennessee playing exactly those teams, Iowa and Illinois. But, Virginia plays an 8 or a 9 win Missouri team. Did they not? Who won that game?
Virginia did.
Virginia, right? LSU plays a non-Power 4 Houston team. Who wins that? Look at the bowl record in this bowl season of the SEC versus the Big Ten. I dare say, has the Big Ten lost a game, guys?
I don't believe they have. I have not checked. I saw they were 4-0 at one point.
I think it's like 6-0. It's getting kind of silly. But I was going to come by and bring you guys a little bottle of cheer, little makers, a little bourbon. But I really don't, let's not make it a gift. Let's make it a bet. I will take the lowly Illinois, right, this trash Bielema team against this vaunted SEC Tennessee team for a pair of Predator tickets. You guys probably get them for free if I win.
I don't think we're allowed to promise that. We can look into it, Dr. Locke. I don't know if we're allowed to promise that, but yeah, you know, the game today, Tennessee does have a lot of opt-outs.
Hey, you're right. You guys probably can't honor it, right? Nod, nod, wink, wink. I'm coming by the studio anyway. I'm going to be bringing some bottles in. But if this terrible midsection of the Big Ten mollywops beats up on this Tennessee and Vanderbilt team, maybe there might be a little Predator sauce my way. I get it. Not.
Appreciate the call, Dr. Locke, and good luck to your Buckeyes tomorrow.
Happy New Year.
I get what he's saying, you know, but I always hate when people use bowl games to decide, you know, conference supremacy because of all of the opt-outs there are. Like, the Tennessee is missing half their secondary today. I still think Tennessee probably wins, but I think it's going to be close.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now, not looking good for our theory that the middle of the SEC is that much better than the middle of the Big Ten. Let's see. Justin from Greenbrier says, in all honesty, I'm hoping for an upset-driven field. I want Oregon, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Miami to win. Give me a reason to tune in. I can't stomach another Ohio State run to the championship. And that's what we got last year. All of the underdogs won. All of the teams that played in round one won in round two. We'll see if that happens again. I know Dr. Locke was very confident in his Ohio State Buckeyes. I believe he said the same thing about the Big Ten championship. So do want to just put that out there. I believe he called in before that and said it was a foregone conclusion that Ohio State was going to win. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Both those defenses are good. I think Ohio State's going to win. They've got more talent on the offensive side with Smith and Tate, and Bo Jackson isn't Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, but he's a really good player. I will go with Ohio State, but I think it'll be a close, low-scoring game, maybe 17-10 Buckeyes.
I'm thinking 21-17.
Yeah, I think it'll be around there. Let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
I don't ever want Dr. Locke's team to win, man. Like, I don't care who it is. I wouldn't care if it was my team. I would want us to lose. That's how much I don't like listening to that guy. Anyway, that's no offense to him. He does fine. You got to give me my flowers on Alabama, dude.
Yep.
Like, you know I called him. Okay, I'm glad.
You did. We were doubting Alabama. None of us picked them to beat Oklahoma, and you said that they were going to make us look silly. And another win, I think, would make us look silly.
Dude, if you could put a sawbuck on them, I just got a feeling, man. I don't know what it is. I don't think Indiana is special. I think their quarterback is overrated, and I think he's going to end, which is not going to be good if you wanted one of those top two spots if Fernando Mendoza doesn't look good. But I just got a feeling about Alabama, dude. Like, it just everybody – they expected way too much from them, and then once they lose the first game of the season, it's like people forget about Alabama, man. But I think they're a team that you can't sleep on. They still have great players everywhere, man. So and they know how to have a winning pedigree, whether it was with that coach or not. I just got a feeling Alabama's going to do something, man. And so I would I'm putting $20 on them just to see what happens. But I just got a feeling, like in my gut, that Indiana is not the real deal.
Yeah, I don't want to say it. Every time I doubt Kurt Signetti, I end up eating crow. Yeah. But I do have a gut feeling too about Alabama this weekend. I said it last week. I think they got their swagger back a little bit in that game against Oklahoma. They had struggled down the stretch, needed a game-winning drive at the end to beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl, then lose 28-7 in the SEC championship, barely looked like they had a pulse against Georgia, go down 17-0 to Oklahoma. Something clicked. That pick six, the fourth down conversion late in the first half to get them back into that game. And I don't know. I think Indiana is going to make me eat crow on that. But Alabama, I think they did find something. That's going to be a really good game in the Rose Bowl. Because undoubtedly, Alabama is the more talented team.
Right.
People can complain and say, well, Indiana is the number one team in the country. You look up and down that roster, there are more NFL players on Alabama than there are on Indiana. They are more talented. Indiana has been the better team this year. I think it's going to be a really close game. I don't know which way I would lean on that because Indiana, every time you doubt them, they shove it right back in your face. Alabama does feel like they found something in that game against Oklahoma.
Something's fishy about it in general because you mentioned Oregon and James Madison, how that was kind of more of a game for them to tune up with.
Yeah.
For Alabama, I think that's the same thing except at another level. They needed a team that was comparable to their playing style, that they needed to figure out their identity. And sure enough, they found it out in the second half. Again, I'm with you, Jake. I think there's something with this Alabama team. And the fact that the line's at 7, it just is a little fishy.
Yeah. I'm none of these games I feel confident in.
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick one, it would be Georgia over Ole Miss. I think that's the one game where I can say I feel pretty good that Georgia's going to beat Ole Miss. Like I'd go 75, 80%. None of the other ones are that high. I would probably go 55% Oregon, 55% Indiana, maybe 65% Ohio State. I think that's kind of where I am. But these are all going to be good games. We complain about the opening round of the playoff and that the blowouts happen. The quarterfinals should be really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be a great couple of days of football.
One more thought about Alabama, Indiana for me. It's that people are probably expecting another Charlie Becker breakout game, Mendoza and Becker back and forth. What people don't realize and they kind of forget about, just in recent history is that Oregon and Indiana went to Oregon, Eugene, and ran the ball down their throat. That could probably happen against Alabama in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
People, let's not forget about that. This is a team that can still run the ball very well.
That's why I lean Indiana, because I feel like I'm doing what I complained all year about when it came to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Like I complained all year about you're scouting the logo and not scouting the team. And I find myself doing that. It is hard not to look at Indiana and Alabama and say Indiana's the better football team and they're going to win. It's tough to wrap your head around that. And I get it. Like I complained about it with Vanderbilt, but I do get it. It is tough when you've seen these two teams. I mean, 2 years ago, if you asked who is the best team in college football ever, best program, Alabama's at least in the conversation with your Notre Dames and, Nebraska back in the day. But
LSU.
Alabama is right at the top of the list. If you asked who is the worst power conference team in college football, Indiana would have been in that conversation. And now they're playing in the playoffs, and Indiana is favored by a touchdown.
Again, I'm with you. I can't wrap my head around it, but there is something fishy about the Rose Bowl, and I kind of like it.
I can't wait. That's going to be a good mid-afternoon one. I'm hoping – so our game on New Year's Day is at 1. That should time up that I will be traveling, but I should be able to at least have it on as we're going to the airport.
Some team Wi-Fi action.
At the very least, it's good that, we play, since it's New Year's Day, it's a Thursday, but it's New Year's Day. We're playing in the early afternoon. So we should be home by the time Georgia Ole Miss kicks off, I would guess.
Okay.
Or right around there. So hopefully won't miss too much. But yeah, that Rose Bowl game, I agree. Fishy is the way to put it. I think it's going to be a great game.
Not stinky.
Not stinky, like
Fishy.
Trey called the Titans defense, but fishy. Again, I lean Indiana, but I think it's going to be really close. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'll continue previewing the college football playoff. We'll get a little bit deeper on Georgia Ole Miss because that's the one that we haven't talked a ton about yet. We'll talk about that on the other side and much more. We'll also get, before the hour wraps up, we'll get Nick Frazier's thoughts on what Nashville SC has been doing in the offseason. Just a quick update from our Nashville SC correspondent as there's been some news around the boys in gold lately. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you, previewing the college football playoff quarterfinals, which get underway tomorrow. Miami and Ohio State. You can listen right here on 102.5, The Game. Then on New Year's Day, it'll be Oregon and Texas Tech, Indiana and Alabama, and Georgia and Ole Miss to wrap up the day. Semifinals coming up next week. So excited for that. We were talking Alabama and Indiana. And before we get into Georgia Ole Miss, 8597 asks on the text line, do y'all think Alabama would be here in the second round if Jalen Milroe stayed for his senior season and Alabama started him over Ty Simpson? I don't think so either. Jalen Milroe, he is as traitsy as it comes, of big arm, fast. Everything in between, he couldn't do. Like, it was the deep ball and it was running. And if you asked him to do something else, it just wasn't going to happen. He was a smaller Anthony Richardson, basically. And I just didn't think that played with Alabama and what DeBoer wanted to do. Simpson's a much better fit. We'll see if they're able to pull off the upset. But I'm with you. I don't think Alabama – does Alabama make the playoffs with Milroe?
Well, there was also pressure on Milroe to enter the draft because Ty Simpson fit the Ryan Grubb mold very well.
Right. And with Milroe, I think when he decided to enter the draft, there was at least a little bit of buzz around him of maybe somebody looks at him as a project quarterback like Malik Willis. I would say Malik Willis and Jalen Milroe were very similar prospects coming out of, he's got the speed, he's got the big arm. Can we coach everything else? And the Seahawks took him. I don't think that they view him as somebody who's going to help them long term, but I can see why he wanted to enter the draft, because it was like, hey, somebody might take a look at the traits that I have and say, I can mold that into a weapon for us in the future.
Yeah, and that's the thing with those college quarterbacks that go to the NFL is you got to find the right system to join. And I tried to bring the Titans into this conversation, but the Titans can't develop a quarterback. I mean, minus Cam Moore, I think he has the intangibles to do whatever, but you look at Malik Willis and the whole narrative online of, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Mike Vrabel, Malik Willis, you can stop that.
I know.
Because that didn't work out.
We did this yesterday, and we realized that if you're looking for the one thing that caused all of the madness that's happened, it's the A.J. Brown trade, right? Like, you traded A.J. Brown. If you don't do that, is Vrabel still here? Maybe. Is Henry still here? Maybe. But because you traded A.J. Brown and you fired John Robinson and you collapsed into 7-10 in 2022,
right?
All of this has happened since then. So, yeah, I agree with you, though. Like, Malik Willis in the Titan system was not a fit. I don't know if Jalen Milroe will be a fit in Seattle either. Maybe it's one of those things where, like Malik Willis, a change of scenery might make him somebody who can be developed into at least a backup quarterback in the NFL.
It'll just take some time because he's on that rookie deal, but minus that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Bama with Jalen Milroe this go around, probably not in the favor of. I don't think they even make it to playoff. I'm not that confident on it. But
yeah.
The tendencies and trajectory of their season, I don't know if Jalen Milroe would have been able to bounce back after that week 1 Florida State loss.
Thoughts on Georgia Ole Miss before we move on from the college football playoff? Georgia, I think they're playing the best football of anybody right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't the dominant Georgia teams we've seen in the past, the one that ran TCU up and down the field in the national championship. This team is not that talented, but they're still Georgia. There's a lot of good players on the field. Gunnar Stockton is proven to be a solid quarterback this year. They've got weapons. I think if I look at this game, it's the most lopsided one. Ole Miss impressed me against Tulane. You know, I thought there might be a little bit of a slow start with Lane Kiffin being gone. They scored within a minute of the game starting. So I'm thinking Georgia's going to win, but Ole Miss, it's not like they're a pushover by any means.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got Trinidad Chambliss, who's probably one of the more electric quarterbacks in all of college football, and they have a decent running game.
Yeah, Quan Lacey.
With Lacey as well. So if they can pair those two things together, they can stay in a fighting chance of beating Georgia. It's just a matter of Georgia's defense kind of stepping up to the occasion, which they tend to do in these type of games.
Yeah, and I look at the scheduling, and I know a lot of it has to do with where the games are being played.
Right. But
I kind of wish this wasn't the late game on Saturday. I I'm thinking it's the weekend coming up.
We're all on a tizzy, man.
On Thursday, on New Year's Day. I wish it wasn't the late game because I think you could have made. It does depend on where the games are being played, but I would like to have flipped Texas Tech, Oregon into the late slot, and you put Georgia, Ole Miss in the noon.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. I was thinking more Ohio State. Well, obviously they're playing New Year's Eve, but if I could rearrange the whole schedule, it'd be Ohio State, Miami as that 11 a.m. game, Oregon, Texas Tech, New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And then you can flip flop, Ole Miss, Georgia is that 3:00 game. Rose Bowl is the late night.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I mean, the people who come up with these schedules get paid a lot to make sure that they're getting the best ratings in certain windows. So I get it. But, if I was in charge, I would probably change some things around. Before we wrap up on the playoff, let's just make some picks. Who do you got going to the semifinals?
Georgia over Ole Miss.
Yep.
Ohio State over Miami. And then, crazy enough, Oregon to the semifinals and Alabama.
You're going Alabama.
Yeah, because I had originally had Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking with that seed and just going on with it.
Okay. I'm gonna stick with my original picks that I had in our full-on preview 2 weeks ago. Right. I'm gonna go with Indiana and Oregon on that side of the bracket, and we've talked about it all along. That Georgia and Ohio State collision course on the other side. I don't see it changing now. I think Miami keeps it close. I think Ole Miss isn't going to get blown out, but I think we're going to get Dogs and Buckeyes in the semifinals. Parker, are you sticking with where you were before?
Yep, I'm going Indiana and Oregon and Georgia and Ohio State.
There we go. All right, so we're in lockstep there. Indiana, Alabama is the one that I'm just like, I can see it. I can see Alabama coming out and winning that game, but I'm not going to pick against Kurt Signetti this time. I'm not going to do it. He has made me look silly too many times. Keegan is going Georgia, Miami, Alabama, and Oregon on the text line. Miami's sneaky. If Carson Beck plays a good game, they could win. They really could. But against that defense, I think Beck's going to make a couple of mistakes, maybe a pick six or something like that, or a scoop and score, and it's going to be enough because Miami's not going to be able to score more than, 17 points, I would say?
Yeah.
Ohio State's holding opponents to 8 points per game this year.
Ooh.
So I don't see Miami being able to overcome any catastrophic errors from Carson Beck, and I expect there to be at least one of them.
Yeah, easily one, maybe two. Two seems like a comfortable number as well. Could be three. I mean, look, I'm not trying to be negative Nelly here, but it's a possibility. I'm not confident on Carson Beck.
Yeah, me neither. I think that's the big reason I'm going to pick Ohio State is just it's Carson Beck. And I just don't trust him.
It's another reason why he's at Miami.
Right.
Yeah, think about that.
He'd be at Georgia if you could trust him.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Lots more talk on the college football playoff tomorrow. That Miami-Ohio State game, as a Titans fan, that's one you want to be watching because there's a whole lot of names that the Titans could draft this year, next year, moving forward, loaded with NFL talent. We'll talk with Corey Curtis tomorrow when he's on the show about that as we get ready for the college football playoff quarterfinals. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Coming up next, we're going to wrap up hour number 2. We've got Nick Frazier in, and it's been a while since we've updated on Nashville SC. They're going through the offseason. Some reports have come out. We'll let Dr. Crane fill us in on all of that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Finishing up hour number 2 on the show. We'll talk more college football in the 11 o'clock hour. Music City Bowl going on down the road later on today. Tennessee and Illinois. Vanderbilt taking on Iowa tomorrow morning in the ReliaQuest Bowl. We'll look quickly at both of those games and then get back into the Titans. But we do have Nick Frazier in with us and Dr. Crane, one of the leading media members covering Nashville SC. And there's been some moves in the offseason for the boys in gold, so wanted to get Frazier's thoughts on the offseason so far. Yesterday, the report came out, Jacob Schaffelberg was traded. There was some rumors of Sam Surridge, who is obviously a superstar for Nashville this year, getting interest to go back to England, but he has since pretty much shut down those rumors.
I'd say so. I look, the rumors are rumors, right? In the soccer world, rumors can lead to maybe more of an ember to the fire. I don't know. I look at that Sam Surridge situation as if they get a multi-million-dollar offer for the guy, go ahead, but that is a key pillar to that offense they cannot move off of.
Right. I think you saw what he did in transforming that team back into a contender this year, and I think it would be hard to move off of him this season.
Yeah, and Nashville, they're flipping the page in their chapter. They're trying to get younger, stronger, faster, all the above. And you move off of Walker Zimmerman early on in the offseason. He now signs with Toronto FC.
Yep.
That's a key piece for Toronto, a team that's trying to really find their identity. But as for Nashville, they're thinking, how can we really supplement the loss of a key player in Walker Zimmerman? Let's go over to the Nordic area and grab Maxwell Wozelinski. He actually played in the same league as Eddie Tagseth and Patrick Yazbak before coming to MLS to play for Nashville. So Maxwell Wozelinski is another player that is similar. If you've watched this Nashville SC team play, Jason Palacios, the other defender, they kind of play similarly. This guy Maxwell can play in a 3 at the back. He's versatile defender. He gets up into the attack, which is nice. I think the big factor for Nashville when they were on set pieces from corner kicks and free kicks out from the general outside the 18, that was more the issue of, can Walker Zimmerman get back and play defense? We knew Jason Palacios could get back there. And that was the factor, is that one of your center backs was anchoring your defense, and it wasn't in the brightest of lights. So now you bring in a young guy that can get back on defense, that can help out your team overall. Again, that kind of puts the question of what does that mean for the milkman and Jack Mayer? And again, I think he is the Robin to the Batman. I don't think he is the perennial center back. He's that more rotational guy, in my opinion. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, yesterday the news, Jacob Schaffelberg sent to LAFC. I think this is a win-win for both parties. Nashville in return received $1 million in general allocation money.
Wow.
Which is good. It's $500,000 for 2026, $500,000 for 2027. And they get also a percentage price of a future sale of the player, which is kind of what they did with Alistair Johnston way back in the day for Nashville SC when he ended up going to play for Celtic. So there's that. I think, again, for LAFC, it fits their system. They like to play that 3-4-3. They have the former Tottenham Hotspur player, Heung-min Son, at their striker position. And then you have Dennis Bouanga, who is always in the golden boot race. Are they going to make a formation change where they can put both guys up top, or are they going to put him out at the right wing and have him just use that pace that he's been known to use for Nashville? So again, he doesn't leave Nashville empty-handed. He helped the team get their first championship.
Right.
So congrats to that. But as for Nashville, it's a win-win because they also have a guy that's a Costa Rican national, Warren Madrigal. He is he played for Valencia B, which is their second-tier team.
Gotcha. More
like a youth development system in a roundabout way.
Right.
On loan from a Costa Rican team called Saprissa, if I'm pronouncing that properly. Anyways, Randall Leal, former Nashville SC player who played for Washington this past year. They played at the same Costa Rican club. So we'll see how that plays out. Young player, I believe it's a 3-year deal as it's rumored online. If that is the case, then Nashville's kind of reloaded a little bit. You understood that under BJ Callahan, you can develop young talent. And the young talent they developed, it actually worked out for them.
Right.
And Matt Corcoran, a midfielder that is 18, 19 years old, played a lot of ball this past year for the U20s of the U.S., and that's huge. When you can play at the international level at your age group and dominate, that goes to show you can play at a top-tier level in the MLS.
It is funny hearing like the way trades work in soccer because, you're so used to football where it's player for player, player for pick, or, baseball, player for prospects.
Right.
But it's basically you're selling these players and getting a percentage of his future sale. That's such an interesting concept to me when it comes to the movement of these players in soccer.
Yeah. And for that case, I think it's the second time in club history that's happened.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it.
It's like more of an investment than anything. It's like, all right, we'll take $1 million, but we want 3% of what you sell him for in the future.
Yeah. And to that point of Jacob Schaffelberg and this Nashville SC roster under BJ Callahan, and this was kind of a joke when I went to the preseason practices last January, a former media member or a current media member, still Valer Shabila, along with Claudio Villalobos, we're doing some funny video. And he asked me the question of like, who do you see having a difficult time adjusting to BJ Callahan's system? And my first answer was Jacob Schaffelberg. Just because of the way he played under Gary Smith, it was, we're going to kick the ball far, and Jacob's going to run after the ball, get to it, maybe service something into the box. Under BJ, it's more of a collective effort of we're building up play out of the back, we're doing quick transitional play. That's something that worked well with Jacob Schaffelberg, but not to the degree of we need to control possession. And that, again, it was just a one-trick pony for him.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nashville saw a ceiling with Jacob Schaffelberg. Maybe that's the case. And the fact that you're able to grab a little bit of an add-on percentage of a future sale, again, a win-win. Good job on Mike Jacobs' part.
Justin from Greenbrier texted in. He says, truly hope that SC can strengthen that roster with some speed and depth and make a real splash against a team like Miami. I think we saw it in the playoffs. It was tough for Nashville SC that they got matched up with Messi and Miami in the first round.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're probably going to have to play that team in the playoffs, and that's the bar that you have to get to in terms of the roster that you're looking to build.
Yeah, Nashville SC fans, close your ears when I say this, but now that they've won the U.S. Open Cup, they qualified for the CONCACAF Champions League or Champions Cup, however you look at it. They rebranded it. And then you now qualify for the Leagues Cup as well.
Right.
The second round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, though, if they win,
is Miami.
Is Inter Miami. So, again, it's not a lose-lose situation, but they just can't seem to get away from them.
I mean, it's an interesting rivalry because who would have thought Miami and Nashville, but because of the Leagues Cup championship a couple of years ago and the games that they've played in the regular season, the MLS, and of course 3 games in the playoffs, that is it's the rival for Nashville. It's like, hey, we need to beat Miami.
But, we talked earlier about football and the Titans and building structure and a culture. BJ Callahan has definitely announced that for sure, that there is a structure, there's a culture. He wants to build from the youth all the way up to what you have now. It kind of resembles a little bit of the Preds. The Preds have your veteran players that are help shaping the younger guys.
Right.
I think we have that with Nashville SC right now, as from a fan perspective and someone just that spectates the game. You bring in a guy like Andy Nahar last season at the right back position, and now you can kind of supplement that elsewhere, which is a good thing to see. You have a midfield now that you understand who your core 3 are, which is Patrick Yazbek, Eddie Tagseth, and Matthew Corcoran. It's the fact of the matter of now you have to rotate players like that. And they have Johnny Perez that plays out left wing. And that's where you saw Jacob Schaffelberg struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of the way he played. Johnny Perez is more of a possession base. He'll take a 1-2 move, beat the defender, which is fine. But as for Schaffelberg, it just seemed his availability is kind of what hurt him a little bit.
Right.
Was always being called up to the Canadian national team. Again, phenomenal young talent. God bless him. But you got to be available for your club. And especially that Nashville's on a run now where they're in 3 competitions, including their MLS League Championship. And then you have two other ones outside of that. That's why you need available young players. That, again, let me take a little backstep for a second. MLS roster construction is extremely difficult because you're trying to get young talent that's good enough to keep play in MLS,
right?
So they don't get called up.
Right. I guess that's the balance is when you are not the highest level of soccer, which that's what we're used to in America, is that the NFL, the NBA, it's all the highest level in the world.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about somebody being too good for you. But it's like with Nashville SC, you develop somebody to be really good, they're going to start getting calls from other people.
Right. And it also increases the price tag of their sale price. So if they end up becoming
That's
really
true.
good,
Yeah.
there you go. Make your money that way. So
Right.
Again, it was a home run hire at the beginning of all this when they got BJ Callahan. I was worried after the U.S. Open Cup, were they going to move on from, or not move on from, but was there going to be an international club that was going to poach him or an international squad for a nation to poach him? I don't think that's the case because Mauricio Pochettino is doing a really good job with the U.S. men's national team. So overall, it's a win-win for Nashville going into season number 2 or chapter 2 of NSC with BJ Callahan. So this will be fun.
Yeah, and with 2 days left in 2025, they're the only winning team in Nashville this calendar year. Preds will look to change that coming up as they are right at 500 this season, 17-17 and 4. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, the Music City Bowl coming up later on this afternoon. Again, you can listen to pregame coverage starting at 3 right here on 102.5 The Game with kickoff at 4:30. I want to know from Vols fans, how do you feel about this game? What are you excited about? Because it is a different type of bowl game for this team. You're coming off that playoff appearance last year. It's not like 2 years ago when you're getting your first look at Nico. What are Vols fans looking forward to in this game? I want to know. Text in 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Hour number 3 coming up. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up. 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5. The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We will talk Titans in this final hour. I want to get into Cam Ward a little bit more as he gets into his last game of his rookie season. We'll do that at the bottom of the hour, but I want to start with the Music City Bowl here. Coming up 4:30 today. You can listen into pregame coverage starting at 3 right here on 102.5 The Game. And for Tennessee fans, it doesn't feel like there's much buzz around this game and lots of opt-outs. I was down around downtown yesterday and saw a lot of Illinois fans. And I know that the local Tennessee fans wouldn't just be hanging out on Broadway the night before the game. Obviously, most of them are probably coming in today. But for Illinois fans, I think this is a kind of a big deal for them. Music City Bowl is a decent bowl game for Illinois. And, you know, it's another chance to come to Nashville. Their basketball team just played here earlier this month. For Tennessee, I just don't feel like the fan base cares all that much. And I want to know from Tennessee fans, like, what are you looking for in this game? Is it that you want to see Joey Aguilar, his last game as a Vol? Like, is that important to you? Is it maybe some of the younger wide receivers getting some reps or some of the young players in the secondary with the opt-outs? I don't know, because the last 2 years, obviously, there's been a big reason to watch the Vols in the postseason. Last year, you're in the playoffs. Of course, that's a huge deal. And then 2 years ago, Nico was making his first real start against Iowa, and you wanted to see what he can do. This year, I just don't feel the buzz around Vols fans for this game.
I think they feel like they've been stabbed in the heart a little bit with the whole, Joey Aguilar thing at the very beginning of the season and how this might be a lost season in some regards. I mean, going 7-5, 8-4 is kind of the realm of what you thought it would be at the beginning of the season. That's kind of what you're ending up with. Having all these opt-outs, again, to your question, what is the temperature like? I'd say it's more on the negative aspect. I don't think Tennessee fans really care about this season as a whole. I don't think they care about the bowl game as a whole. I think they're just looking on to next season. And sometimes when you look forward to stuff in the future, it doesn't pan out the way you want it to. So just enjoy what you got in front of you, because it's not like this everywhere else.
Yeah, you look at the opt-outs yeah, there you go, Mike Vrabel. That's a good pull right there.
Thank you.
Tennessee players that have opted out of the Music City Bowl: edge rusher Joshua Josephs. He's probably going to be a top 100 pick in the draft. Arian Carter opted out. Chris Brazel, Colton Hood, Jermod McCoy, Peyton Lewis, Jake Merklinger, he's in the portal. Peyton Lewis is in the portal. Marcus Gorey, Brendan Ains into the portal.
Yes.
Jamal Wallace, Kellen Lindstrom, and that's all of the Tennessee names. So a lot in the portal, but a lot in the draft. I mean, the first 6 names that I read off there, probably the best 6 players on that team. And I think if you're looking at something, it has to be the young players. I asked the question here for Vols fans: would you be more excited about this game if George McIntyre started? Like, I understand you don't want to take Joey's last game away. He's come in here. He has been way better than I think a lot of people expected for a guy that they had to just pull in spring and say, you're our guy now.
Yeah.
But would you be more excited if it was, hey, let's give George McIntyre a start? We don't know if we're going to have to go to the portal for a quarterback. We don't know if Izon Brandon is going to come in and maybe start as a true freshman. At least give McIntyre some game reps in this game. And I think that would get more buzz around this Tennessee fan base, especially with the local kid coming back to play in Nashville.
Exactly. Former Brentwood Academy standout. This is, look, when you're in a game like Oregon, prime example, when they went up against JMU, they took their starters out in the second half. I wish there was a way or a scenario for Tennessee to kind of experiment with that. Maybe start out with McIntyre in the first half or in the first quarter. If things don't work out, put Joey Aguilar in. And hopefully Aguilar doesn't take it to heart. But again, this is a business. It's no longer college football. It's a business. You got to see what you have going forward.
Maybe you let Joey, I would maybe go the opposite way of let Joey Aguilar come out in front of the fans, start the game, play the first half, and then get his curtain call as he comes off. I'm sure that stadium's going to be more Vols than Illini. Illinois travels well. I was seeing the Battle of the Bands. It looked like there was a decent amount of Illinois fans there. I had to sort through them. But it's going to be mostly Tennessee orange in that stadium. Let Joey Aguilar play the first half, have his moment as he comes off the field. Hopefully he plays well. and then let George McIntyre start in the second half. That was my one thought looking at this game is like, I think there'd be way more buzz if there was a hint of what the future could look like for Tennessee. Because Vols fans, like you said, this season was kind of lost for them, and they didn't beat anybody all that good this season. You know, you lose to Vanderbilt at home to end the year. It's like, do you care about this game? I think having a look ahead at what next year could look like at quarterback would do a lot for this fan base.
Yeah, because I'll call them franchises. They're no longer schools, in my opinion. You look at every team in aspects, everything revolves around the quarterback, regardless of the system. That is your primary care in a roundabout way. You got to make sure that is taken care of. And if it's not, then you're SOL for the future. And it seems like the Vols have a lot of options at that position going forward. Like you mentioned with Brandon, along with McIntyre.
Yeah.
And see how
maybe in the
out.
portal, like, I don't know. And I think that's why I would do it if I was Josh Heupel is, they've seen George McIntyre in practice the whole year. Obviously, they probably have a decent idea of what he's going to be. But you really don't know for sure until you see them get those live game reps. And this is a game that, and like B-Man on the text line says, as a Vols fan, I want the 9th win, considering Nico leaving out of nowhere and having to pivot to Joey. A 9-win season would be acceptable. So I get that. Josh Heupel's not trying to lose this game. He wants to win. But when you have to make these decisions about what you're going to do in the transfer portal, which again opens up on Friday, and we were going through during one of the breaks all of the quarterbacks that are in there. I mean, there are a ton of quarterbacks and some that aren't even being talked about. Like the big names are getting talked about with, you know, the 5 stars of Lagway and Raiola, and then there's Rocco Becht and Bo Prabula and Josh Hoover, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple of big names as well. But there's also Anthony Calandria from UNLV, who's a former big-time recruit and played well with the Running Rebels this year. So the Vols are going to have options if they want to go out and find a veteran quarterback who can come in and start immediately. If it were me, I'd like to see George McIntyre play first to have an idea of whether that's going to be necessary in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say spend a lot on him, but I mean, he's a commodity.
He's a 5-star recruit.
He's a 5-star recruit. So again, those 5-star recruits, prime example here in Nashville, Jared Curtis. I don't want to go to Georgia. I want playtime. I'm going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
McIntyre probably thinking the same thing. I could go somewhere else and be a 5-star phenomenal quarterback for a university that needs me.
Well, and especially, 5 stars, you're kind of splitting hairs, but Brandon is a higher rated 5-star than McIntyre was coming out. So you look at it that way. If they do bring in a portal quarterback, I'm sure McIntyre feels like he's sandwiched, right? It's like, all right, well, I'm not going to start this year because they brought in Brandon Sorsby. And I'm probably not going to start next year because Brandon's going to be ready to start as a sophomore.
Right.
So it's like, I can't stay here because I'm never going to get my opportunity. This could be a chance for a proving ground for him to step up and say, hey, I'm facing Illinois. I'm going to go out and play. And, Josh Heupel can look and take the tape and say, all right, this can be our guy of the future. We don't need to go spend $3 million in the transfer portal to go get a starting quarterback. We can have him start and then see where things are moving forward between him and Brandon.
Yeah, I just feel like the Vols are stuck in the old idea of recruiting, like before NIL was like truly legal and all that fun stuff. It's more of, we have the commodities. We can see who we can really play out when it comes to spring practice, whatever. It doesn't work like that no more. You can't go rely on 3-4 guys to have a quarterback competition because those guys don't want to waste their talents at that one spot.
Right.
I think that's simply that. And unfortunately for the Vols, they've found themselves in this conundrum of, we have a lot of guys going to the draft. We have a lot of players. The next wave of talent needs to come in, and I don't know if it's fully there yet.
Yeah, and it's this new era of college football where good players that you bring in aren't going to sit for 2 years and develop. They want to play immediately, and if you don't let them play, they're going to go somewhere else where they can play. So Vols and Illini coming up at Nissan Stadium, 4:30 kickoff. Terry on the text line says, we will be there when the game starts. We'll be orange covered. Why do you think it's Joey's last year? He has the same career as Vandy quarterback. Isn't Aguilar older than Diego Pavia?
I'll double check that.
By a year.
Okay.
So how would Joey Aguilar have another year?
Because he played 2 years at JUCO, 2 years at App State, and then 1 year at Tennessee. Basically, he's
Oh,
trying
so
to
they're
argue to
saying
get
that
4
those 2
years.
years for JUCO.
He's
Okay,
trying to get 4 years of power or Division I eligibility.
Okay, so yes, if Diego Pavia does win that lawsuit, it would win Aguilar another year. I guess that is true.
Does Tennessee want to run it back another year with Aguilar?
No, that's the question. Is like Aguilar was a nice Band-Aid for them this year, but I don't know if Josh Heupel believes that he should start again next year.
Yeah,
right. Like I don't think that Aguilar is part of the future. He was just the desperation move they had to make at that point. Let's see. Justin says if Aguilar is not coming back this next season, I would put him in for the first half and then switch it up. They need to see the younger guys. So yeah, I guess it all depends. If Joey Aguilar is going to come back next year, it all depends on whether Pavia wins the lawsuit. So it's kind of funny.
It's crazy how Pavia now holds not only college football but Vols fans,
right?
And it's just exactly what he wants.
Because the ruling that happened last year just gave a blanket waiver to JUCO players who were running out of eligibility for this year, but he didn't actually win the lawsuit yet. That still has to be decided. So that is interesting, and especially with the whole Baylor James Najee thing that just happened, where he was drafted and is going back to Baylor. Maybe there is a chance Joey Aguilar comes back. I did not realize that he would still be eligible if that lawsuit passes. So 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. What are your thoughts on the Music City Bowl today? Tennessee and Illinois coming up at 4:30. And again, pregame coverage coming up at 3 o'clock. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue talking about that game on the other side. Also, a quick look at Vandy and Iowa tomorrow as the Commodores take on the Hawkeyes in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Then we'll get back into the Titans. All of that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. A few more segments on this Tuesday. DVD is coming up at the top of the hour. I almost said Chasing Big Joe, just out of habit. It's DVD today from 12 to 3, so a little bit earlier for Adam, D-Mace, and Willie. Chasing Big Joe will be doing the Music City Bowl pregame starting at 3. So flip-flop today, DVD coming up at noon. We're talking college football because of the Music City Bowl down the road today, Vols and Illini. We asked the question about whether Tennessee should consider letting George McIntyre play today. And I don't know if they would have a plan like we were talking about of split it half and half. That probably would have already come out. Like I think Heupel would have mentioned that both guys were going to play half and half. But you wonder if it gets out of hand one way or the other, if he's more willing to put George McIntyre out there just to get him some live reps.
I mean, I would. Look, you want to see what you have in the future, go put him out there. I mean, again, you could just run the ball and say, I'm done with this game and call it a day. No, but put him out there, get some valuable reps. And not only is it tape for next year, it could be tape for him if he's trying to think about maybe making a late push for the transfer portal or somewhere else to go.
And that is what TD from Nashville just said on the text line. He said, Joey playing today is not all about the Vols. This could also be about Joey increasing his stock. If he's rewarded another year of college eligibility, he could enter the portal and take a bag from another university. And actually, that's a good point from TD. You make the assumption that if he came back, he would come back to Tennessee, but maybe Tennessee decides that they want to bring somebody else in or want to go with one of their young high school recruits, McIntyre, Brandon. And Aguilar, I think he would be a sought-after guy in the portal. I mean, it's an experienced guy. He's won multiple different offenses. I think that would be the most likely scenario, is that Aguilar maybe goes down to somewhere in the Big 12 or the ACC or something like that, and probably gets paid a couple $1 million for his last year.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure Vols fans are very, I guess, joyful towards Joey Aguilar when it comes to looking back at this Tennessee season and saying, hey, thanks for putting us to relevancy a little bit.
Right.
But if he were to come back for another year in Knoxville, Vols fans would be like, look, we appreciate you, but you need to get going.
Yeah, I think you have to appreciate what he did and say, you were about as good of a stopgap as we could have hoped for after the Nico situation. Because when Nico left, the portal had pretty much run dry. There wasn't a whole lot out there. That's why you basically had to do the 1-for-1 swap with Nico, because Joey just lost his job at UCLA. So credit to Joey Aguilar for coming in here and doing a great job. But in terms of the Tennessee, like, long-term goals and wanting to get back into the national championship conversation, I don't think Joey Aguilar is the guy to take them there next year.
Yeah, because if he stays, that puts Heupel's job on the hot seat immediately.
Right. No, and it's a good point, because Josh Heupel, again, I would say the seat is lukewarm right now. You know, no imminent danger whatsoever, but one more year where you're playing in a bowl game at 8-4, that's probably when the calls start coming for, hey, we don't accept 8 wins here in Knoxville.
Yeah.
We want you in the playoff every year.
You look at Josh Heupel and you wonder if he's hit the ceiling already with Tennessee. It just makes you wonder. You can still bring in all the 5 stars you want, but if the product on the field's not improving, then what do you do?
Yep. And we will see if he's able to find that quarterback, whether that's one of the guys he's already got, Brandon coming in, or if he goes to the portal to try and jumpstart this thing in 2026. For Vanderbilt tomorrow, taking on Iowa, it's an interesting game. I mean, Iowa they're going to pull you into the mud, and they're going to want to win this game 15-13, where they don't score a single touchdown. But for Vanderbilt, they're such an explosive offense, and they do things in so many different ways. Diego Pavia can throw the ball downfield. He can run the option game. They can run it in between the tackles with the trio of running backs they've got there. So it's going to be a matchup of styles here between Iowa and Vanderbilt. I lean that the Commodores have it. I think they are going to miss Eli Stowers out there a lot, and totally get Eli Stowers opting out. He is borderline first-round pick, I would say right now. Second-round pick for sure. And when it comes to that guaranteed money that you're going to get as a draft pick, it's not worth it to risk it to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. But I do think that Vandy is going to miss having Eli Stowers out there. That's a safety blanket for Diego Pavia. the other tight ends they have are good. Cole Spence just announced he's coming back for another year, which is great. But none of them are quite as dynamic and reliable as Eli Stowers is.
Yeah, Eli Stowers easily is the best tight end in the nation. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, Jake, because obviously not having Stowers in the equation for the bowl game, you can still win this with Pavia with his legs. I mean, we saw it against, we've seen it against, Alabama's, the Texas, where, and I've mentioned this before, they spread them out wide down the line. And I think that's something that you can do against an Iowa, because Iowa is one of those teams, like you said, that likes to get real back and forth, nitty gritty between the hashes. And it's just the way Kirk Ferentz likes to play. He likes to keep things tight.
He does.
So with Vandy, they could easily just do 1-2 punch, run the ball up the middle 2-3 times, and just do pop over the top. Just do one of those numbers.
I also think it means more to Vanderbilt. It just means more.
That's what I said. Some SEC there.
Coming off the snub of really not being considered for the college football playoff by the committee, weren't even in the conversation. I think Vanderbilt has something to play for. I think there's a chip on the shoulder of those guys in that locker room, and it's like, hey, we want to go out and prove that they got it wrong. I think Vanderbilt's going not just to try and win this game, but to win convincingly and say, hey, look at the teams that you had in there. We're better than some of those teams, and we're going to show it today. I just think that in bowl games, the want to is just as important as, the players on the field. Right. Like, do these teams care? Do they want to go out and win? And I think Vanderbilt for sure has a lot to play for them.
Absolutely. And not only just for the rest of this season, but for next season, in my opinion, you look at this bowl game and you say, look, if you win this by 3 or more possessions, you're definitely going to be in the top 15 next year. It's a preseason poll. I think that definitely plays a factor into all of this. Some people say no. I say yes. That, again, you make a great point. They try to prove the committee you left out one of the best teams in the top 12. So if they can do that, I think they can definitely take care of business and maybe get themselves in the top 15 preseason come next year.
Well, and it's cool. Jared Curtis has been participating in bowl practices.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
So if he's going to start next year, he needs as many reps as possible. And it's good that he's practicing with the team during the bowl practices. He's going to get all of spring practice. And right now, I would guess that Vandy's not going to bring in a quarterback to compete with him. I think they bring in a quarterback maybe to be the backup.
Right.
But the way I look at it is you already got Jared Curtis, who I'm sure is getting some NIL money.
Great compensation.
Do you want to go spend millions of dollars on another quarterback, or do you want to use that money to get him weapons, get him an offensive line, get him a defense who can keep them in games? I think that's where Vandy's going to go. I don't see them making a big splash.
Yeah, I would lean more towards the offensive line because, look, you have MK Young along with another running back. His name's escaping me right now. But if you just have a good 1-2 combo there, but then you supplement all your NIL money with an offensive line with a young quarterback and Jared Curtis, I think that's where you got to go on this route because, look, if he gets stuck in the pocket or if he doesn't know what to do, more than likely he'll end up in a sack and a loss of yards. You don't really want to see that in year one under Jared Curtis.
You want to keep him upright. And you're going to need a backup plan. Like, I think they might go get a quarterback that they feel comfortable to be the safety blanket for Jared Curtis. But going out and getting somebody to compete with him, I don't really see it. Somebody on the text line, 0324 says, you guys are dreaming Iowa by 10.
Huh.
Well, Vanderbilt's, like a 6-point favorite?
Yeah, so, something along those lines.
Here are the wins for Iowa this year. Albany, UMass, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota, Michigan State, Nebraska.
Wow.
Putting that out there with no comment. Ben says, I haven't met a Vols fan that wants Joey gone, assuming he gets another year of eligibility, but I don't pay attention to Twitter or anything. Yeah, I haven't heard that either of Vols fans saying they want Joey gone, but I just can't imagine that they're just going to run it back with him.
I can't. You just can't do it. If you want Josh Heupel there for the long haul, you cannot have Joey Aguilar back for another season.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Bowl games for both the local teams coming up in a 24-hour span. Tennessee and Illinois coming up later on today in the Music City Bowl, 4:30 kickoff. Vanderbilt tomorrow against Iowa at 11 a.m. And you can listen to pregame coverage on 94.9 The Fan at 9:30 tomorrow. Coming up next, we'll get back into the Titans. Cam Ward, almost done with his rookie season. How does he compare to a couple of quarterbacks who took a big step from year 1 to year 2? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, with you on this Tuesday morning. Back into the Titans here, with you till noon. DVD coming up at the top of the hour. Cam Ward through 16 of 17 games of his rookie season, and it was a slow start for him, especially statistically, but 4 straight games now with multiple touchdown passes. They've won 2 out of their last 4. They've looked more competitive, scoring in the mid-20s in each of the last 4 games this month. It's gotten better for Cam Ward. And a lot of the conversation that we have when talking about Cam Ward developing is these young quarterbacks who struggle their first year and then come back and take a big step. A while ago, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they both got opportunities. They didn't start the full year their rookie year, but when they did, they struggled. They came back. They took a big leap. The more recent ones are from last year. Coming out of last year, Jaden Daniels was far and away regarded as the best quarterback from that 2024 NFL draft class because he took the Commanders to the NFC Championship. Rightfully so. He should have been considered the number 1 guy. But you look a year later, Caleb Williams and Drake May have caught up to him and more. Drake May might be the NFL MVP this year. So I saw stats yesterday on Twitter, and I can't remember who posted them, but it was Cam Ward stats since Brian Callahan got fired. And if you projected them out to a 17-game schedule, here were Cam Ward's stats. So these are the 10 games since Callahan got fired, projected out to 17 games. 3,400 yards, 62% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and an 87.4 rating.
It's pretty good.
Since Brian Callahan got fired. Those are fine stats. It's not anything groundbreaking, but it's solid. Caleb Williams' stats all of last season as a rookie. 3,500 yards, 62% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 87.8 rating. It is almost identical.
That's crazy.
And you can't just erase the 6 games he played under Callahan, but I think the last 10 give you a better idea of, in an offense that is structured to play to his strengths and his teammates' strengths, what can he do? Those are the stats that he has in the last 10 games. And I look at it and say, with what he's able to do off schedule and improvising and escaping, same stuff Caleb Williams does. Now, Cam has to be more consistent at the other things, but you look at those stats, Cam has basically done the exact same thing Caleb did in his rookie season since Brian Callahan got fired.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cam Ward's escapability of the pocket, like yesterday, Terry McCormick hopped on with Chase and Big Joe, and I think Joe's asking about Cam's got to stop the hero ball stuff.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that's okay, in my opinion, because of how, I guess, lackluster the offensive line production has been.
Yeah.
Because the way he's been evading the pocket and making those crazy throws, and they've been caught by Alec Iman or Chimdike, that goes to show you the raw talent the guy has. And to the point of the stats you're kind of comparing here to Caleb Williams, that's a great foundation to know that this guy can lead you to more and more as years come on.
Well, and the development still has to happen. Like,
Sure.
It's not saying just because Cam Ward has these stats and Caleb Williams had these stats means Cam Ward is going to take that leap next year. But it shows you that Cam is on schedule for what you would expect. Yeah, do you wish he did more, especially early on in the season? Sure. You wish that he put together an offensive rookie of the year type season. But you can't call him a bust when he's basically doing, since Callahan got fired, he's basically doing the exact same thing Caleb Williams did last year, and Caleb Williams just won the division in the NFC North.
Yeah, and again, the Chicago Bears, like you said, they didn't have the best success under year 1 with Caleb Williams, nonetheless they didn't have the competent, coaching staff. Same thing with Cam Ward here. And again, not trying to do apples to apples with the numbers, but if you're a head coach like a Mike McCarthy or a Robert Saleh or whoever, that is a great baseline to learn off of and say, hey, I can actually do something with this. This is a part of the platter I want to continue to eat off of.
Yeah.
Like, that's simple as that.
And you brought up Big Joe talking about Cam Ward and the hero ball stuff.
Right.
And I agree with him in part that Cam Ward needs to be able to pick his spots better.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take the hero ball out of him because that's his game. That's what makes him special, is the plays that he made against the Saints on Sunday that a lot of quarterbacks, most quarterbacks, can't make. The throw to Mason Kinsey, the third down throw to Alec Iman, where he dodged 3 defenders and threw it as he was getting pulled down. The near 4th down conversion to Tajay Spears. Like, those are the things that he does that other quarterbacks can't do. And you need that if he's going to be the player you want him to be. But he's got to be better at knowing when the journey is over. The throw that he made late in the first half, I want to say, where he threw it off of his own offensive lineman's helmet and it went backwards. Like, that play was over 3 seconds before that, and Cam needed to know it and just throw it into the third row. The play at the end of the game, you have 8 seconds left. You can't hold the ball for that long, and you can't get out of the pocket and then drop it. Like,
throw it to the end zone.
You have to be able to try and make a play. The game's almost over. An interception doesn't kill you there. Throw it up. See if one of your wide receivers goes up and makes a play on the football. He has to pick and choose his spots better. But if Cam Ward is going to be the player you want him to be, it's going to be because he has that escapability and the intangibles that a lot of quarterbacks don't have. He has to be able to do the regular quarterback stuff better.
Right. And again, to Cam Ward's, I guess, capabilities in the pocket, that you mentioned that one play at the very end of the game, that Hail Mary that ended up flopping. It just almost, to me, from listening to him in press conferences as well, he wants perfection. He wants that perfection factor to really sit into his game. And to do that, like you said, to your point, you have to be good at the basics. And he's not quite there yet, but that raw talent is there. And for Cam to, I guess, grow off of it, you just have to take a step back and just evaluate your rookie performance. That's simple as that. But he wants everything to be perfect. I hate to tell you this. I'm a little older than you. I'm not as old, but I feel like I'm wise enough to say not everything's going to be perfect.
No. In the NFL, the guys across from you are getting paid a lot of money to stop what you're trying to do. It's not going to be perfect. That's just the game. You look around, you could go through every game from all of the elite quarterbacks throughout time, and you will find a handful of throws in their best games that are bad, or a bad decision, or, holding the ball too long and taking a sack. Every single game. And for Cam Ward, I think he, just like a lot of fans, kind of have him under a microscope of, man, that throw's bad and that one's bad. And yeah, he needs to clean up a lot of that stuff, but nobody's going to be perfect. And I think you're seeing the progression slowly but surely in the right direction. And the stats have followed. The eye test is followed too. You watch Cam Ward play now, he looks more comfortable. He is making better decisions. He is making better throws. The deep ball accuracy stuff, we went on about it for a week, 2 weeks after Cleveland and San Francisco. I thought Sunday was probably his best deep throwing game of the season. He dropped a few in the bucket. If it wasn't for that pass interference, that would have been a dime down the field. So I like what we're seeing from Cam Ward. This offseason is going to be absolutely crucial for his development. Can you get coaching around him who can clean up the footwork, clean up the struggles throwing outside the hashes, especially to the left, where there's been some inaccuracy? Can you clean that stuff up? That's going to be the question, but you see enough raw potential and the wow moments and the growth in some of these areas that he struggled in to believe that with an offseason, with better coaching and more around him next year, that he's going to improve and hopefully be the franchise quarterback you're looking for.
Yeah, and I mentioned this to you earlier in the show, and I've mentioned to you off the air as well. I just don't think this franchise is capable of developing a true quarterback. And I think it comes down to more of what Cam Ward can do outside of the franchise's, walls.
His personal quarterback coach.
Right. I think if he goes that route, that's great, which he probably will. But whoever's on staff, if it's Bill Hardegree next year as a quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator, or if they bring somebody else new in there, make sure you establish a core foundation of a direct line of communication. Because if you don't, the whole group chat of Brian Callahan, Nick Holtz, and Bo Hardegree, too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm sorry. And I think he even understood that. From watching him play from week 1 up to week 6 or 7, whenever Callahan was gone, you could tell there's a little bit of a miscommunication with play calls, a little discombobulation with the style of his play. After he left, when Mike Coy took over, the team kind of adopted that run-first mentality to establish, the offensive line's play, and then everything else opened up for him in the passing game. And I think that's something that, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you can use that as your foundation, I think he'll be just fine with Nashville.
Yeah, I like what we've seen from Cam Ward lately. I agree. I think that there needs to be symmetry and communication between what Cam is being taught outside of the building and what he's being taught inside the building.
Right.
Whatever staff that comes in, whether it's a defensive guy and he hires an offensive coordinator, or whether it's, you bring in a guru, Kubiak kind of guy, there needs to be immediate communication of, all right, Cam, if you're working on stuff outside the building, this is what we want you to do. And I think footwork is the big thing. I think it's improved, but it still gets sloppy. The first throw of the game on Sunday to Alec Iamaner, where he missed him by about 5-10 yards, he didn't step into it, and it was inaccurate. There are times when he can get away with it, and he has gotten away with it, but to be consistently accurate, his footwork needs to clean up, and I think that's going to be a main focus this offseason.
Yeah, he kind of has that baseball throw-esque. You know what I'm talking about, where you can feel the ground ball. You don't really directly throw to first base. You kind of have that wide arm, sidearm look. Cam has that tendency, like you just mentioned, and it's just something that, again, it takes footwork. And again, I think if he works on that footwork, it takes that hero ball aspect out of his game.
Yep.
Tremendously.
Yep. And again, the highlight reel of Cam Ward's rookie season is going to be great, but there's plenty of lowlights in there too. And you need the highlights to be less of what you're looking at and more the overall results of Cam Ward's play. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We got one more segment in the show, and I just read off the stats of Cam Ward since Brian Callahan got fired. If you project it out to 17 games, it's almost identical to Caleb Williams' stats from his rookie year. I was curious, so I looked at Drake May's stats from last year, too. We'll talk about that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. A reminder, DVD is coming up after us. Shuffling things today with the Music City Bowl. So it'll be DVD from noon to 3. Then at 3, Music City Bowl pregame with Chase and Big Joe leading up to kickoff at 4:30. So looking forward to that. Tomorrow on the program, Corey Curtis is with us to help us ring in the new year from 9 to noon. And we will talk plenty of college football with the college football playoff quarterfinals starting tomorrow, and Titans, as well as the Preds too. Preds have an afternoon game tomorrow taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. We were having the conversation. I saw the stats yesterday on Twitter. Cam Ward stats since Brian Callahan was fired after week 6. So it's 10 games. And it may sound like I'm cherry picking stats here, but there's some bad games in there too. I'm using this as a dividing line of when adjustments were made to try to play to Cam's strengths. And that's what Mike McCoy said when he had his introductory press conference as the interim head coach, that he wanted to find a way to make adjustments to help Cam out. So the last 10 games, Cam Ward has 2,016 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and an 87.4 rating. We went through Caleb Williams' rookie stats, and if you project Cam's out to 17 games, it's almost identical. Here were Drake May's 12 starts last year. Drake May, who is the odds-on favorite to win the NFL MVP this year. 2,276 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks, and 88.1 rating. So it's not identical, so it's not as good of a comparison, but it shows you that Drake May struggled last year at times. But they brought in a coach who, Mike Vrabel, I think, realized his limits in terms of developing a quarterback. And, he brings in Josh McDaniels, who has experience in that place, developing young quarterbacks. He's done a good job. So you bring him in, and Drake May, boom, with more pieces around him and better coaching, becomes the NFL MVP in 1 year. That's not what's going to happen with Cam Ward. And I'm not delusional to think that a year from now, Cam Ward will be the odds-on favorite to win the NFL MVP. But you look at the stats from Williams and May last year. Not great. Williams was solid. Only 6 interceptions, 20 touchdowns. He did get sacked 68 times. With Drake May, 10 interceptions and a lot of fumbles too. He turned the ball over too much, but the flashes were there. Cam Ward, I think, is in the same boat as those two guys. He has to improve. He has to do the work to develop, which it seems like he's willing to do. And the team has to be able to put more pieces around him. Drake May gets Stephon Diggs, who he's in the news right now. We won't dig into that too much. No pun intended. But you give him that. You give him Travion Henderson in the backfield. You give him all these weapons, an improved offensive line. You solidify left tackle with Will Campbell. And boom, he's an MVP candidate. Might win the MVP. Cam Ward, if you can surround him with pieces, he has shown the growth that Caleb Williams and Drake May showed throughout their rookie year. Can he expedite that in the offseason and become a franchise-type player next year? That doesn't mean MVP. That doesn't even mean what Caleb Williams is doing and leading the Bears to the playoffs. But taking that next step and being a guy that you believe can be your quarterback for the next decade.
Yeah, and you made a great point with the New England Patriots. You have Drake May, who is an MVP caliber quarterback this year for, I wouldn't say one reason, but a primary reason, and that's having a true left tackle with Will Campbell. I think that's something the Titans tried to do with J.C. Latham, didn't pan out. Now you have Dan Moore Jr., who is, again, leading the league in sacks at his position. If you can somehow find a solidified left tackle, that is, I think, the problem solver to everything right now. If it's me, not a line coach, not a quarterback's coach, whatever, but that is the primary issue with this Titans line right now.
It's tough because Dan Moore is never going to be a high-level left tackle.
Right.
I think he's done exactly what I expected him to do this year. He hasn't been good, but he hasn't been an outright disaster. And for the Titans, that's a step up from what they've had at tackle for the last couple of years. J.C. Latham has shown growth after it looked like he was going to take a massive step back in year 2. And it may be, maybe it's just staying stagnant.
I'd say lateral move.
Right, lateral move from year 1 to year 2. We didn't see the jump that we hoped to. And the same thing could happen to Cam Ward, right? Like, that's the conversation we're having here. Can he develop in year 2? We don't know yet, but it seems like the want to is there. He wants to be great. I think the mental side is there for Cam Ward. I think he understands the game. Yep. We've seen that throughout the year. He's checking into the right protections. He is making the right calls at the line of scrimmage. I think we've seen a lot of good from Cam Ward, but it is the physical side of the footwork and not holding the ball for too long, making the right calls. Like, I think that has to develop over the offseason. But there's no reason he can't take that same jump, maybe at not the same level, but a jump from year 1 to year 2 that we've seen from Caleb Williams and Drake May.
Yeah, and another factor to all this, you talk about Drake May, Caleb Williams, the injury factor. Those guys didn't really get injured that bad their rookie year. And you look at Cam Ward, knock on wood, barring week 18, that, things tend to be okay going into the offseason.
He hasn't missed a snap.
Right.
Like, again, knock on wood, because the last thing you want is an injury in week 18. But, man, like, the durability, that's something that we have not seen with a young Titans quarterback in a long time. Will Levis couldn't stay healthy. Marcus Mariota couldn't stay healthy. Jake Locker was allergic to staying healthy. Vince Young couldn't stay healthy. It's like it's 1 year and there's still 1 week to go. But like, Cam Ward has shown some durability, because it's not like he's been clean back there. He has taken some hits.
Yeah. And I think he showed up once on the injury report, and it was like a
ankle or something, like that, like week 4, week 5.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been a clean bill of health. That is the best of ability is availability. Mm-hmm. And Cam Ward has been available all year long. Indy Ben on the text line says, if you're suggesting Ward can be as good as May or Williams, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And I don't know if I would say that. I mean, we don't know what those quarterbacks are going to be at this point, right? Like, they're still in year 2. There's a lot of development for them to do, and they have to be able to maintain the level that they're playing at right now. But I don't see any reason why Cam Ward can't take a similar jump from year 1 to year 2 that those guys have. Caleb Williams and Cam Ward were similar type players. You drafted them because of the Mahominess of their game, of being able to get out of the pocket, make plays on the run, and create. That's why Caleb Williams got drafted. Caleb Williams was more consistent at doing everything than Cam Ward was. And that's why Caleb Williams was viewed as this generational prospect. But when you look at Cam Ward, I think there's no reason that he can't take a jump like they did. Will he be the MVP or in the playoffs next year? I would doubt it.
Yeah.
But you want to see growth. And in year 2, if he can be a guy who can get you 8 or 9 wins and is viewed as a top 12 to 15 quarterback in the league, that's a good start. His career's not 2 years long. You're hoping that he's going to be here for a whole lot longer than that.
Yeah, and you got to remember this too. You're at the bottom right now. You want to be in the middle of a conversation. So put yourself statistically in the middle of every conversation. Not at the top, just it's a foundational piece, a building block. Get into the middle of things.
Cam Ward finishing his rookie season coming up on Sunday at noon down in Duval County, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dr. Crane, always a pleasure having you in.
Thank you. Enjoy every Tuesday. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis will be in for our New Year's Eve show from 9 to noon. We'll talk Titans, Preds, college football, and more. Special edition of DVD is coming up next. Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.